the ever-changing weather around the world, ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all, there is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is tonight's race around the most famous track in Australian motorsport and one of those up-and-coming tracks in terms of global motorsport. Hello and welcome from Mount Panorama, Bathurst for tonight's round number 5 of the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans Championship. Scotty Rattlegun Rankin behind the mic, and we've got ourselves Brady Baldwin back alongside of us once again. Dan Yeaman behind the cameras for us yet again. We've been fiddling around with a whole bunch of camera work tonight. I can tell you there is a much anticipated driver information panel coming your way at some point throughout the race. But that is just a small portion of the gradient that these drivers are going to have to take to. It's the most famous of circuits. It's the most storied of circuits. This is the one they all want to conquer, Brady. And I don't think I can bang on about it for long enough to give you the legendary sense that this circuit can inspire. But we are here, Brady, and it's for a mammoth race around the mountain. We're in for a good one.
Yeah, Scott, and thank you for the intro. Once again, 300 kilometres tonight. We're looking at Mount Panorama Circuit in Bathurst, in New South Wales, in Australia. Lockie said, the most famous track in Australian motorsport, and probably a lot of drivers' favourite circuit as we look in on our Google Earth image, zooming in on the small country town of Bathurst. One time a year, now 2 times a year, like this weekend with the Bathurst 12 hour, this place goes off. We'll have a look at the track map. 23 corners, 6.213 kilometres, and it all starts at Hell Corner, up Mountain Straight, and then through all the top of the mountain, down the famous Conrod Straight through the Chase, and at Murray's Corner, and that is a lap at Bathurst.
Yep, I don't think there's a single person tuning in here tonight who doesn't know about this straight, about all of the emotions it can evoke. Have a look at some of that land around the beautiful, beautiful mountain, because I tell you what, it is in hot demand. Race fans love this place. Teams, well, they want to do well at this place, but most importantly, they're just hoping they are not in charge of a repair bill late on a Friday or a Saturday night just to get their cars back in order. Griffin's Bend, it's been the site of many an important overtake. It's been the site of many an important setup for the lap. You're chained in behind cars all the way across the top. Then you get to unleash the beast all the way down Conrod Straight. Fastest section in Australian motor racing history. It gives you goosebumps just thinking about all the little things that can go wrong. But tonight, remember, drivers locked into a setup. They'll all share the same pains. They'll all share much of the same trials and tribulations. But this is the mountain. There is only one man who can conquer it. And tonight, from qualifying, it has been decided by 11 thousandths of a second for the top spot. And it's none of our normal crew here tonight, Brady, either. It's you come here, you're expecting, maybe it's going to be Scott Gamble. Maybe it's going to be Greg Favell. Maybe it's going to be Sean McNamara. We've been through all those names. No, these boys got out there tonight and decided there's going to be 2 names different on that front row so far this season.
Yeah, certainly. We'll have a quickly look at our championship standings just before we go into tonight's stream. Michael Taliantich has been very consistent so far this season. After the first 4 rounds, he'll hold a 26-point lead over David Kirby, who hasn't had the best of results all season, but he's been consistently around the top 10. That's got him into P2 in the championship. Then we'll go down another 5 points to Jeff Thomas, and then another 2 to John Latham, and then another 8 back to Anthony Visma in P number 5. The rest of the top 10 will be ran out by Damien Gantz, Matt Vanderkraan, and then Mark Duggan, Christian Smart, and Kenneth Latta. A few of those guys in the top 10 will be featuring up the front of this race tonight, so it'll be a good opportunity for them to bank some more points and head into the next round on a bit of a high.
Yeah, have a look at the few points that covers our P2 all the way back to P number 9 in equal 8th place. There's a tie for that one between Mark Duggan and Christian Smart. Mark Duggan will be smarting just a little bit after that small error on the way into pit lane from Rudskogen. Drove a phenomenal race in terms of pace. Scott Gamble had his number in the end and he would come home with the top spot. It was a phenomenal drive back through the field from Mark Duggan. And unfortunately for him, doing it from a little bit further down tonight. Right, 49 laps gives us a race distance of just in excess of 300 kilometers. Pit strategy, it's going to be an estimated 2-stopper. Qualifying, it's in the books now. It was a maximum of 3 laps was the distance, but that critical lap number is going to be lap number 27. I assume that that's going to be for our second stop here tonight, Brady. So it looks to be a maximum fuel distance of about 22, 23 laps in there. Long track, difficult to save enough fuel to get that extra lap in, and that's the case with a lot of long tracks right around the world.
Yeah, certainly. We've seen it over many years of racing the circuit. Any more extra fuel you can save here, if you can get an extra lap at Bathurst, it is certainly very critical and will certainly help your race strategy by the end, as we will look to go to our Kumho Tyres grid for round number 5 here of the championship here at Bathurst.
I tell you what, probably one of the most important pole positions of the season, and it's the one that everyone wants to achieve. With a time of a 2-minute, 2-second lap, 953 thousandths of a second. It's going to be Anthony Visma in the 6 car from pole position. But off alongside of him is going to be the 269 of Ken Latta, 11 thousandths of a second further back. Absolutely nothing between those guys. Greg Favell with a 203.149 will start on the inside of row number 2. We apologise to you, ladies and gentlemen, as the gridding is not currently working the way that we would like. We'll just keep working through them. John Latham off along from the 3rd row of the grid, my apologies. Jason Spriggs in beside him. And there it is. That's the one that comes up. We'll drop it further back to the next row of the grid. Damien Cairns and Mark Duggan. Can Mark Duggan find that race pace that he was so desperate to show off last week? Perhaps you'll find it here tonight yet again. Jeff Thomas and Greg Sharp, Christian Smart and Tim Nicol round out your top 12. Take it away, Brady.
McKeon and Jem McKnight will share row number 7, and then Michael Stewart and Michael Talianchich is the championship leader down in P number 16. So a bit of work to do for the number 21 machine. Brenton Nishka and Matt Vanderkraan will share row number 9, with Craig Friend and Travis Hunt sharing row number 10. And off P21, P22 will be Chad Lewis and Michael Quain. Then rounding out row 12 will be Stephen Banks for the 077 and Andrew Hoffman in the 51.
We'll throw it a little bit further back. Remember that amazing fight from Tyburn last week? That was the battle to watch all the way down on the fringes of the top 10. This week he will start a long, long way further back in P25 off alongside of Rick Vigor. Daniel Hall and Peter Vander Crane in 26 and 27. 27-28, and Brenton O'Brien, Robert Griffiths, 29-30. We'll throw it back over the page once more. Darren Crosby, Jason Fewens, David Kirby, a very long way back for him. This is normally what he considers to be one of his stronger tracks, I would assume, and that is not going to be a great start for your P2 in the championship. Stephen Kennedy off alongside of him. Halil Cesar and Chris Miller are going to round off row number 18. That's going to throw us deep into the pack, where we will find Rod Hollis and Robert Crysdale. Stuart Hall off alongside of our safety car drivers, which will fill up empty spots on the grid. John King will be off of row 21, and I think that's just about going to round us out. No, a couple more drivers from the very back of the pack, Matty Parker and Dean Flavel. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your V8 Veterans grid from Mount Panorama Bathurst. 42 drivers in non-race car trim taking to the field here tonight. Brady, they're getting set here for a start. You've got to get through turn number 1. Here comes the revs. They will start to rise in just a few moments. They're going to get themselves going on the way down to turn number 1. Who will have control of the field? Who will have control of the first lap of tonight's race? Who's got the jump? And it's a great start on the inside away from Anthony Visma, who's immediately going to cover the line. That's going to open up the opportunity for Favell to shove the nose down the inside. Lots of room shown on lap number 1. Favell wiggles it out at turn number 1 and gambles straight away through into P number 3. He'll snap that one up, and here comes the hard charge charging John Latham. Didn't put a lot of practice in over the few weeks leading up to this one. Now he's got an opportunity at the defending champion Greg Favell on the run to Griffins in the first lap. 42 cars have got to make it their way through the mountain on this first and most important of laps here tonight. And Latham will back out. He'll settle down that one. They were 3 wide back in the pack there, Brady, as well. But it's going to take a lot of patience here on the mountain.
Yeah, certainly a very clean few opening corners so far. And Greg Favell got a really good initial launch there and just got a little bit loose in the exit of turn number 1 there at Hell Corner and opened the door up for Scott Gamble to get by, and then John Latham nearly had to go down into turn number 2, just couldn't quite get the job done.
Yeah, have a look at them come over the crest for the first time here tonight. The run down and over. Look at the amount of cars. 42 screaming V8 supercars, a mix of Ford and Holden as they take to the dipper for the first time in 49 trips past one of the most dangerous corners in motor racing right around the world, but definitely in Australia. The run onto Conrad. Here they'll wind themselves up. They'll run the long, long way down to the chase. Who's going to pull out the bravery on lap number 1? Who is going to look for the overtake? Who is going to look to try and set their season alight? And is it going to happen early, or are you starting to see drivers in fuel save?
I certainly think tonight being a 300-kilometre race, I don't think many people will be pushing too hard too early. It's a long race, 300 Ks and 49 laps here. It's a decently sized race for a solo event. So I reckon these guys will put their head down. I think we estimate the first stint will be about 17 to 18 laps on this first stint on the opening field. So it's a long way to go, another 16, 17 laps on this opening stint. And then guys will just get in a rhythm and try and bang out some good laps.
Well, here comes the pressure, and it's going to be Ladder that's immediately going to take it to the rear bumper of Anthony Visma. He's going to shove the nose down the inside. You're looking for the rear bumper of Scott Campbell. And if you look backing out through his windscreen, it's actually going to be Ladder who's going to send it down the inside. Pass done. Ladder takes over the lead on lap 2 at Griffin's.
Definitely a fantastic move there from Kenny Ladder. Set it up really nice with a beautiful exit off Hell Corner. Really set him up up Mountain Straight, and into Griffin's Bend, got the job done, and now he's out in front. He can try and push a little bit further, try and build a gap, but you've got to remember that up Mountain Straight and down Conroe, there's certainly a lot of towing and drafting getting made by these drivers. So certainly guys behind, as we see a lot of the other guys have a massive moment to be back there, Scott.
Yeah, and I was actually just riding on board with Ken Ladder as he went across the top. And Michael Stewart Machine was the driver we were keeping our eyes on the middle of the pack. Took a break last week from Rutscogan, wasn't here, took some well-deserved time off with the family, but he would never miss the mountain. And it was Ken Ladder right up and across the top, right near the grate, and he was millimetres from rushing the wall. I'll tell you that much. That is how you're going to get your pace done in the early stages of this one. So the run back down Conrod once again. This time, it is going to be Scott Gamble that looks through his rear-view mirror at last season's champion. It's Greg Favell. Is he going to set him up for the move? He is. There's no fuel saving here. There's no love lost. A little bit of a lift. There's not really an overlap there. Not really an opportunity. Big bit of fuel saving. So it's going to be Favell that looks to be a little bit of the patient man in the early laps.
One thing that Kenny Ladder might have a disadvantage for is being out in front. He has no opportunity to fuel save. He's leading the pack. These guys behind using his draft may be able to save a little bit of fuel. So maybe being the leader this early on in the race may not be the best thing overall. But
backwards at the last corner. Here we go. Hang on. It's all on for Gamble and Whisper as well. And that was right in and around Michael Taliangi, which was a car of Greg Sharp that was actually drifting backwards. Actually, Greg Sharp in the pit lane. So there was another car. So whether or not this was for a jump start penalty, I would assume, or he's trying to get himself out of the traffic early. Yeah, so jump start. Jump start, we're getting the word for Greg Sharp, or some other sort of penalty picked up on lap number 1, but it's only going to be a... Chris! Scott Campbell's around. Scott Campbell's got an issue.
yes, and then I just picked it up at turn 2. Scott Gamble and Greg Favell made contact at turn 2. Sent Scotty Gamble wide into the barrier. He's lost a number of positions to try and get what in great replay of that, a massive moment in this race early on, Scott.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a Logitech G. What a moment when this one comes up in the Logitech G replay. We'll get this one to you in just a few moments. This is it. Run up and out of the corner. It's going to be the send from Scotty Campbell to the outside of Anthony Visma. And that looks like he might have just turned in a little bit too early. I'm going to be honest. I think that's all Campbell.
Yeah, certainly. It'll be interesting to see what race control deal with that. Sorry, I thought it was Greg Favelli made contact with. It was actually Anthony Visma for P2, who will ride on board with the 543 machine. We'll see his perspective, and yeah, he might be right, Scott. Maybe just turned a little bit early. Didn't really give Anthony Visma enough room on the inside. Might have just cost him a few spots there.
Well, it was basically the only way Visma was going to get through there was to be up and on the curb, and you don't want to do that in Griffin's Man. It'll unsettle the car. And that's effectively not providing racing room. So I'm interested to see, because again, we talk about setting precedents from a race control perspective. Precedence is what they should be ruling on. It's a really, really good way to set the standard for your drivers. And if there's a penalty issue to Visma, well, I'm happy for that to be the standard, but they need to be on that one this time. This is not a penalty. This is him getting out of the train. I don't see any damage to that car either.
It looks like the right side of the door actually it's going to have some massive damage.
Okay.
We might be able to get a view. So he's got a lot of damage on the right hand side. Maybe got the wall, so he might have some damage. But I wouldn't think he's been this early because you're going to be so far out of sequence that he's on the jacks.
Oh, huge! It's going to be an absolute cataclysmic event, and the track is trimmed not at Griffin's Bend. It is on Mountain Straight. And look at the pile up of cars making their way up out of Hell Corner, and they are faced with hell. Safety car called immediately, and I don't blame them. There is chaos everywhere. There were cars on their roofs, cars rolling over each other, cars upside down. Are you kidding? That was huge.
That was absolutely massive. We will have to get a replay. It was Ty Byrne involved with Chad Lewis in the RT machine. That was absolutely massive. Up Mountain Straight. I've never seen such a big crash up Mountain Straight. We'll have to look at the Logitech G replay. Looks like Ty Byrne. Chad Lewis actually just had a really bad run out turn one. Well, Ty Byrne, to me, he just doesn't get out of it. He turns right into Chad Lewis, turns around into the fence, and Chad Lewis has pretty much no control of his car, and bang, it's all over.
So for the viewers watching at home, Chad Lewis, he's on the brakes, he's on the anchors, he's doing everything he can to arrest that car. This is going to take some time. Because who's the car that's coming across? Is it the 727 of Chad Lewis that squeezed Ty Byrne? We saw what a good defensive effort it was out of Tyler. He's still moving to the left-hand side of the road. He is still coming across from Chad Lewis, but there's still space for Ty Byrne.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a tough one for race control too, Cole, but the big thing is the massive pile-up afterwards, of course. There is many cars involved in that. Lucky for some drivers, there is one fast repair, but I don't think many of them cars are actually going to get back to the pits. They have that much damage, I don't think they'll make it around.
Well, there are cars, ladies and gentlemen, crawling from the cutting. There is one car stopped at the cutting. The 727 of Chad Lewis has made it to Conrad. The whole field is in the pits, except for the chunk of the field that's currently coming out of the chase. So everyone that was clear of that incident is in pit lane. We have one car on Mountain Straight, so we have two cars on Mountain Straight. The race off of pit lane is going to be won by Ken Latta, who had pulled out to nearly a 2-second lead at that point in time. So we've got, we do indeed have a car on, it was just the one car, sorry, my apologies. One car on Mountain Straight with a safety car that's making his way past him right now. We've got one car at the cutting. We've got one car at Griffin's. So it's Dave Kirby. This has championship implications. This is P2 in the championship, ladies and gentlemen.
Certainly, Dave Kirby. I'm just having a look. He got massively involved, unfortunately, in that accident, as among a lot of people. A lot of people, unfortunately, had really nowhere to go in that incident, and man, I feel sorry for a few of them guys in that field because they literally had nowhere to go at all.
Oh my God. About the only way to digest this one we're gonna get a little bit closer. We can actually just stay on board. This is a battle pack that's unfolding way back where Dave Kirby is. This is already going on. So Kirby's down the inside here. He's overtaking. He's making the car to his outside. He'll get the job done in the track clears. You see the car bounce off the inside wall up ahead, and you just see a wall of cars. And Kirby's trying to arrest the car, but he's been hit from behind.
Yes, unfortunately, Kirby looks like he was getting on the anchors there, but looks like he, like you said, it's got some contact from behind, and really just, I mean,
That's
hit
why.
from behind, you really don't have much hope there.
The car that's one of the cars, so the car that's immediately behind Dave here is unsighted, completely and utterly unsighted. So I'm not 100% sure who that was at that point in time. It wasn't probably just Cesar. Who's the car? Kirby. But if you go on board, get an onboard shot from Alo's perspective, looking forwards, you'll actually see that he's completely unsighted. A lot of things that people don't understand about race cars is how limited the visibility can be sometimes.
Yeah, certainly when these guys are battling hard, they're not looking that far ahead. And probably until about now, you'd be on the brake, but maybe just Hello says that his reaction probably just weren't quick enough and didn't see Kirby slowing down enough, and massive contact. And he was also stopped between Griffins and the cutting, so it looks like his race will be over as well. As you see, engine smoking, that engine's all done, and his race will unfortunately be over. It'll be interesting to see if producer Dan can maybe get a picture or onboard replay of Dan Hall or Michael Quain, because they were the first guys on the scene after the contact between Ty Byrne and Chad Lewis, and their view's really going to paint a picture and tell the story of the first guys on the scene.
Guess what? We're gonna go back and we are gonna grab another replay of everything that's going on. That's the pit stop. That's the car in the lane. So he's still on track with the time. So this will give us a replay. So you can see immediately ahead the two cars are battling position, which is Vigor and Byrne, and then Dan on the inside of the trying to get moved up. This is just all natural races. Nothing going on here, nothing in a part of it. And then he's going to come out of this corner, get a nice big old big one. These guys are going to be still 2x2. I don't know if they'll help more. And what do you do?
Literally nothing Dan Hall or Michael Quain could do there. Literally nothing can do, and nor could Chad Lewis. He had a broken car. He really had no control there either. So, unfortunately, it's a really unfortunate situation, and might be a not so top 10 highlights package for iRacing maybe, because yeah, that was an absolute monster of a crash.
I wanted to be on those for a fair while. I never thought it'd be from the commentary booth. That's going to stay with me for a little bit. I was actually just about to say, is there any chance we can go to... We've got a new camera here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We've got some new little data packets that we can show you, and there's a little bit going on. We've managed to get Dean Flavel hooked up with a heart rate monitor, and we've also got some onboard telemetry coming your way. I'm wondering, we've missed out in all the chaos that's going on. We've probably missed out on the spike in heart rate. Okay, so he's calmed back down. That 90 beats per minute is what we were watching during practice. That's about his resting heart rate whilst just casually chilling out in the car, running around. I get the feeling that may have been 120, 140 when in the opening laps and when everything kicked off just there.
I reckon lap 4 when that accident happened, it was probably about 160 or 170, because even though he was at the back of the train, he had to take some good avoiding action to stay out of the incident. So Dean Flavel, at the moment, he's, like you said, he's calmed back down a little bit. And interesting to note, Scott, the pit stop cycle that just happened on that safety car, these drivers will now have enough fuel to make it to that critical lap number 27 and then fuel up again and make it home. So actually a pretty well-timed pit stop for the whole field there.
Yeah, everyone partaking on that strategy. I actually have an update on you. This was covered during the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans Splatoon broadcast on Friday night last week. One of my favourite cars in iRacing is actually the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, the 991, so effectively the previous generation Porsche Cup car. That is a safety car that's used for these guys. That's it right there with the 002. And that's my favourite car in iRacing. Has been for a very, very long time. Very lovely engine sound and drivetrain wine. Beautiful car if you haven't had the ability to jump in and drive that one around. the split 2 safety car driver from last week, there was one safety car called. It was called within the final sort of third of the race. Went to leave away from the field, had stone cold tyres, and looped it from Rudskogen. Unfortunately, we don't actually have pictures to show you, ladies and gentlemen, but it just goes to show that even the, quote, safest drivers in the field can still make mistakes. We've seen mistakes from the Masters. We've seen it from everyone so far this season, Brady, but I don't think the safety car was one that we were expecting.
No, when you told me that story earlier, Scott, I didn't know whether to believe you or not, because that's just absolutely crazy and would have been funny to watch for sure. So hopefully we don't get that again this week with the 002 safety car that's leading the field at the moment with Ken Leder right behind him.
Yeah, I think the safety car is actually just about to pull away from the field, so we will actually be back to green flag racing this lap, ladies and gentlemen. Reminder that the maximum fuel distance is about 22-23 laps, so we are going to go a very long way on these tyres on a fixed setup. It is going to wear those. It's going to be uncomfortable for these drivers, and now we've got an order that's a little bit shuffled around at the tail end. You've got some drivers that escaped through that wreck unharmed. You've got some drivers with a little bit more pace that were first on the scene when that happened. And then the battle that was forming up at the front, Ken Latta had managed to get past Visma and pull away, but keep your eyes a little bit further back. You're going to be looking for Scott Gamble as well, who got a little bit elbowed out of sorts, and he's going to be trying to cut his way back through. I'm very, very curious to see how aggressive Taliancic gets. He's driven some very clean, consistent races, Brady. He hasn't won more than one race, but he hasn't needed to. He's just stuck it in there, and he's just kept the thing out of trouble, and that's been good enough so far.
Yeah, certainly. He's had a very good season, very consistent through the first 4 rounds. He's up 5 spots already, up to P11 from 16. So we're interested to see he's in behind the Synergy Sim Racing duo of Christian Smart, Jamie McKnight. Christian Smart's got a lot of rear end damage as well as we look to go green this time by. An interesting note, all cars are back on track, so everyone got around for their fast repair, and every car is still on track, all 41. So really good to see that everyone's back racing, and Kenny Latta will get us started through Murray's Quarter, and he'll start lap number 7 of round number 5 here at Bathurst tonight.
Yeah, time to send it up off towards Hell Quarter. Is it going to be Hell once more? It feels a little bit like WWE's Hell in a Cell, the way that last accident happened. Action back further down in the pack. It's going to be one of the JWN cars who sends it down the inside. Travis Hunting is going to be sliding down. Kept your eyes on him the last couple of weeks. It's hard not to when your car basically keeps its eyes back out on you. He's got a little bit of contact on the left-hand side of him. Look at that. That is pretty chilled out from Mr. Hunt. He's just calm, collected. Oh, downshift again. Oh, downshift another one. Yeah, there's Griffin's man. Nice and easy. And then he grimaces. And he knows that the top out is coming.
Yeah, so he looks very relaxed at the moment, but he's got the easy part of the track done. Now he gets to the cutting, and you might see his eyes open up just a little bit. It looks like he's working the wheel just a little bit there, Travis Hunt. The 32 machine, he'll be going to Reed Park very shortly, and we're on board with him at the moment, the number 32 machine, and very, very relaxed still through Reed Park. He'll be coming through Solomon Park in just a minute, then into McPhillamy Park, over the rise, turn 10, and now across Brock Skyline, a beautiful part of this racetrack, and now through the S's for Travis Hunt in the 32 machine. Now, turn 14, the Dipper, all the way through, and they'll be running to Forest Elbow very shortly. There's a massive crash ahead again.
It's all kicked off down into the Forest Elbow, and there's a car smoking on the left-hand side of the track and going incredibly slowly. It's the 077. That is going to be Stephen Banks, who's now going to be running incredibly slowly down the mountain. He's trying to get out of everyone's way. He's doing his utmost, but sometimes the best thing you can do is just stay right where you are.
We'll have to try and grab the Logitech G replay. It was Craig Brendan in the 696 had a massive moment. Yeah, the Dipper, he got his right-hand side tyres just on the grass. He had an absolutely massive moment, and unfortunately for Stephen Banks, taking avoiding action, he also got loose and into the fence, and looks like his race will be over unless he can get back to the pits and maybe get a fast repair if he hasn't already used it.
We need to be previously to be able to come back down and grab that fast repair. So Craig Friend is the car that we're going to get the replay on board with. the camera in the bottom right, that remains to be Dean Hunt down through the dipper. There's the moment. Got his tyres all the way up on the right-hand side. Takes avoiding action for Banksy. Nowhere to go. Only one other car got involved in that one except for Steve, but a little bit of a brown pants moment for Craig Friend. Reckon they'll have a change of underwear for him at the stop?
I think so. That was a massive moment, and very unfortunate for Stephen Banks. He was just trying to take avoiding action, and when you change direction that quickly in these cars, they tend not to like it. So really, he didn't really have much hope there, unfortunately, and we're actually pretty lucky in the end that no other cars were involved in that, as Stephen Banks has taken his fast repair. He will be coming out, so he'll be a long way behind, but if we get another safety car, he'll be right at the back of the train again.
Yeah, and Ken Ladder's got control of this field yet again, ladies and gentlemen. But this time, Greg Favell has got by Anthony Visma, and now he's starting to apply pressure. So I think Visma is just trying to look after that car. Gets very wide. That looked like contact with the elbow on the outside. The arm cone gets a little bit of a kiss from Anthony Visma. It's early in the race for that Visma. You might want to save the kisses for the tail end of the race.
Yeah, there was a little bit of concrete dust there. As we look at Greg Favell, he'll have another look. He'll just sit in behind Kenny Ladder, I think, for the rest of this stint. We'll see if he has enough pace to actually outrun him, but I don't think Greg Favell is in too much of a rush to get past. I think he's going to play the long game, sitting behind for a while, save some fuel. He might be able to short field just a little bit on that final stop, the next 20 or so laps to make it home.
I wonder whether or not he's worried a little bit about tyre wear. One of the biggest things that we saw out of our experienced drivers last week was their abilities to hang on to the tyres in those long-run style situations. So I'm wondering whether or not that's actually the preferred setup for him. He's going to be a little bit easier on things, chill out just a little bit more, and try and just settle his way through.
Yeah, certainly could be a strategy there from Greg Favell. Looks like Kenny Ladder trying to break the toe just a little bit as we go back. Position number 5, John Latham, trying to have a look at Jason Spriggs once again. Couldn't quite get anything done there, but everyone sort of looks like they've settled back down at the moment. Jamie McKnight runs a bit wide back there in turn number 2. Massive moment for the 027. Got over the sausage stove too. Looks like he's lost 1 or 2 spots there.
Not just 1 or 2 spots, it's also going to be his bonnet lid, so Nichol's going to get his way on through and grab that spot away from him. That's not good for Jamie McKnight, who was having one of his better qualifying attempts. Actual fact, I think it's Jamie McKnight's best qualifying attempt of the season. I don't think he's actually managed to find some pace prior to this week over the shorter format. It's been the longer format where he's overtaken a whole bunch of cars in race trim. The 027s looked good, but you're going to have to do all of that with a little bit of a cooler engine. At least that thing's breathing some nice fresh air.
Yeah, certainly it's probably not ideal for aerodynamics, but at least the engine will be cool. Hopefully he won't be blown up anytime soon, but unfortunately he was P11 before that. He's now back to P13, so a few spots lost with Jamie, but hopefully he'll get back on the wheel and just try and get him back.
How critical is it, Brady, when we're looking at things in terms of the way that these cars are running, in terms of how they look after the tyres, in terms of drivability? I'm seeing a lot of pinch brakes at 3 spots in particular. It's at Hell, at Murray's, and at the elbow as well. A lot of brake smoke in all 3 locations. That is not going to save the tyres one bit.
Yeah, certainly they're probably the 3 hardest braking applications of the whole circuit. You'd look at Hell Corner, turn 1, and turn number 23, Murray's Corner. You'd think they're the easiest looking corners on the whole track. You'd be completely wrong. They're probably the 2 hardest corners of the track, because they set your lap essentially from the last corner to the first corner. So really, he would just be pushing a little bit too hard, trying to get a good run up Mountain Straight, and probably that's why you're seeing all the pinch brakes.
Well, I've got an update for you from the incident that we saw between Tyburn and Chad Lewis. Indeed, it is going to be Tyburn that is deemed at fault by race control for that incident. He has been issued a drive-through penalty, which he has just now served. So after a phenomenal defensive drive last week, he's actually just lost on the exit of pit lane too. So add a double dipping of hot and spicy sauce to that long drive through pit lane, and a lot of work to be done for the driver of the 64.
So that was not ideal of a pit exit there for Tyburn. Unfortunately, he's going to just lose more spots, so he'll be probably at the back of the train now, and unfortunately he's got a lot of work to do as we're on board with Scott Gamble at the moment. Bit of a moment there for Jason Spriggs. in front. Remember, Gamble in Visma had contact early on, battling for P number 2, so Gamble's on a bit of a recovery drive at the moment as we get another word from race control, Robert Crisdale. Now, 808 machine has been issued a drive-through penalty as well. I can't quite remember what that was for, Scott.
Yeah, nothing pops to mind for me either, so that's probably something I'll have to keep an eye out for, maybe do some reading up on. I can tell you now, drivers are starting to pinch brakes up and down the field in a number of more locations. The Dipper is another spot they're getting that little bit of pinching going, but here comes Gamble, and there goes Gamble round the outside, but springs back down the inside. Picked up the brakes just a little bit later on the initial entry, but Gamble gets it done at the outside of the chase, the non-preferred line. But why don't you, Scott Gamble? Why don't you show us what you're willing to risk and gamble at the table?
That's certainly a very impressive move there from Scott. He was very committed. He had to get the move done because the more he's battling with Jason Spriggs, the more he's losing to the front guys, and we know he's got the pace to run up front. So now he's got his sights out on John Latham, P number 4, and really he's not that far off the lead. We have a look. Greg Favell is actually out in front. We've missed that. He's actually passed Ken Latta for the race lead.
Yep, it's a job done now for Greg Favell, and he will start to boot scoot maybe and try and drive his way away. Ken Latta's going to hang with him. It's starting to fall off of those guys just a little bit, so I am starting to think that this is a little bit of a tyre conservation race. We saw that Visma, after lap 1, had sort of fallen off just a fraction in terms of pace. Now these guys have got a lot more fuel on board, so a little bit of a battle-weary Greg Favell on the left-hand side of that car, but hey, in front.
There's certainly a bit of battle wounds there for Greg Favell, and he got the move done through the chase on the previous lap, so we'll pick up the Logitech G replay and see how he got it done on the 269 machine of Kenny Latta. Really set up his run really nicely, off for his elbow, down corner of the straight nearing 300 kilometers an hour. Kenny Latta trying to break that draft down mountain straight. Remember, once you move once, you can't move again. He'll get it set up really nicely, gets alongside him through the chase turn number 20. And Kenny Latta, I don't think really troubles him too much. He lets him go. He's looking for the big picture, and Greg Favell into the lead. We go back on board with Greg Favell. Once again in the race lead, 0.6 of a second back to Kenny Latta, 0.7 now. So Kenny Latta has just dropped off a little bit off the back of Greg Favell, but still a long way to go in this race. 37 laps to go this time by Scott.
Yeah, so settle themselves in a little bit more, but there's going to be some fighting here between the 999 machine, the Wave Runner Performance entry. He's going to try and get the job done down the inside. Doesn't manage to get that one away from Christian Smart, but here comes Talyancic. He'll wiggle, he'll wobble, and he'll try to go to the inside and hell corner. They make contact at the apex. They make contact again on the way out, and around goes Talyancic.
A bit of an ambitious move there from Talyancic on lap 12. I don't think he really got far enough up the side of Christian Smart. We'll have to try and get a replay of that if we can, but it looks like Talyancic just didn't get up far enough. I don't think Christian turned into him at all. I just don't think Talyancic cleared him enough, and it looks like he got away with it, but then Christian Smart sort of lost the rear end and clipped his right rear and sent Talyancic spinning.
We've also got another incident to report, ladies and gentlemen, between Darren Crosby in the 66, and I believe it's going to be Chad Lewis as well. So this is the incident we were looking at just before, down the inside. I think he's missed the apex on the corner.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a difficult one for race control to call. That one between Talyancic and Christian Smart. We'll go back on board again with the 21 of Talyancic. Send in by on Christian Smart. Makes his ambitions clear. Doesn't get to the B pillar though. He only probably...
Right at the point of turn in.
I think that's a 50-50 call, Scott.
Yeah, it's right at the point of turn in is the problem. If he's not there the fraction before the turn in is made from Christian Smart, I think he might have a case to serve in terms of race control, but I'm going to leave that one to race control. That's too close to call in my book. It's a tough one. Could Smart have left a little bit more space? Could he have left a little bit more space on the outside? Oh, maybe. Not if he's a race car driver. Could Taliancic pull the car up and turn it in a little bit better? Yeah, I think Taliancic's definitely good, and that's what race control will have a look at. Also have an update for you further back in the pack between Crosby and Lewis. So something happened at the chase on the very last time by. I don't know if we'll be able to grab a replay of that one because it was a fair way back, and I'm not actually sure what the end result of it was, except the channel. So we've got the producers behind the scene cracking on that one. We get a huge team here. Many people working on. Oh, it's just Dan Yeaman. It's just Dan Yeaman. Man, he does a good job.
Yes, Alex got his bringing some wonderful pictures all night long. We'll go back again to the Logic replay. Check out this instant, the 66 of Crosby and Chad Lewis, who's unfortunately involved in a massive wreck on lap 4. Looks like, big lunge from Dan Lewis. Definitely runs Darren Crosby off the road there. I think there might be a redress coming at least. Very late move there from Chad Lewis. Very late, and I don't think that's a move on. I think he'll definitely have to redress it. But that exit, that return from Darren Crosby was also very risky. That could have been absolutely huge once again, Scott.
Yeah, and right in front of Pinks here in the championship, which is Dave Kirby, was the last car to get through. I can tell you what, Rod Crusdale, after just serving his penalties, now tagged on the back end of that battle pack as well. So I love watching the track map around Bathurst with the full field in effect, because all you see as they go down the zipper is cars just zigzagging across the top, and whoa, hang on, race leader Greg Favell has dropped back from the lead of the race to P4, and that is Scott Gamble. I would say he's going to be P5 in just a few moments. There's a huge head of steam here for Scott Gamble. Pulls to the right-hand side. It'll be around the outside at the chase yet again. Favell's still got the nose in front, closes that one off by millimeters, but that is proper racecraft, or is it? Because here comes Gamble. He's feeling the rear view mirror of the 76 car. Looks to the inside, down at Murray's. Will get the nose to the inside. It's a tight turn in down there, but runs wide just for Favell. That's going to open the opportunity up for the 543. Here comes Gamble. Down the inside, the run. Down a hill corner. He'll squeeze into the outside of track. They biff, they bash, they squabble just a little bit more on the exit, and then he trips over it for Scott Gamble. He wasn't clear, ladies and gentlemen. There was still a Favell car alongside, and now Scott Gamble, with damage, limping it back to the pit lane. It's going to be a long lap for Scott Gamble.
Another hectic moment in this race. We'll try to dissect all that first of all. Why was Greg Favell so far off the pace coming off Forest Elbow? Because that really kick-started it all, Scott.
What happened to all of that? Why wasn't Gamble able to get the move done? Did he lift down into the chase? There was 5 or 6 things that we're going to have to need to look through. So this is Favell in the lead as he comes through the dip lane. In the 3 on the way down to Forest Elbow. And all crossed up at the elbow is where he lost all the momentum. Managed to hang on to it. Cooked rear tires. But will get away with it. And then we saw the rest.
That makes sense to why Favell is so far off the pace to begin with. And then we all obviously seen what happened at turn 1 there. And there's another smoke show up ahead. John Latham maybe just locked it right there. And there's massive damage to the number 14 machine. We might have Jason Spriggs. He was P6 just before, and he's had a massive moment over Skyline into the S's.
Actually, I think Spriggs was actually a little bit higher than that. I think he was in 4th, 3rd or 4th. So he was right there and in contention. Now he's missing a rear wing. Darren Crosby's off the road going up to Skyline as well. So it looks like the tyres are starting to wear. He's managed to gather it up just before he got to Skyline. He was in the dirt on the right-hand side of the road. My word. So we're going to try and catch up. There's multiple things we need to have a look at. One of them a little bit of wild ride of Darren Crosby. But take us through Spriggs' incident here, Ray.
Well, if we look up ahead, it was Damien Cairns, his teammate, got it loose, got in the wall, and Spriggsy was on the brakes trying to avoid him. Scott McCune actually got in the back of Briggs there. Really nothing he could have done there, Scott McCune, and that's just caused a massive pile-up. And unfortunately for Jason Spriggs, trying to avoid his Damien McCann's had a massive moment all the way from the top of the hill, all the way to Skyline, drops the wheel off there, massive moment. His teammate Spriggs on the brakes, Scott McCann gets the back of him, and there's massive damage to that Spriggs machine. So unfortunately, a fantastic run before that has certainly been derailed for Jason Spriggs.
Have a look at how much of a passenger he was all the way down here. So we'll get the run on board from McCune. I think this is going to be another case of can't see it. There's a car off the right. He cannot see that. He sees the car jerk back to the left at the exact last possible moment from McCune. He's doing all he can to stay on the brakes. He's doing all he can to prevent an incident, but he's blind. And this is such... Have a look at the amount of walls, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look at the amount of things that are side by side all over this motor racetrack. Try and look at that through your passenger car. Then add a roll cage. Then add seat belts. Then add a little bit of a change in the driving position. You've got all of these little bits and pieces strapped into a race car that you just don't have in your passenger car. And what does that take away from? Visibility.
Yeah, certainly I don't think Scott McCune really could have done anything more than what he did. We've seen him try to slow it down, but the big slop of Spriggs ahead really just left him no choice. He was going to the back of Jason Spriggs, really no matter what, so I don't think there'll be anything coming from that for at least Scott McCune's sake. But Kenny Ladder back in the lead once again after all that drama unfolded with Greg Favell, Scott Gamble, Anthony Visma's dropped back to P2, John Latham now in P3. Fantastic effort for him.
Yes, there's a few drivers shuffling right up and down the leaderboard. We've just had an update from the incident from the 66 car and Chad Lewis, I think it was, down into the chase. And there is actually no penalty being awarded on that one, which I think is okay. Not a great result. Michael Stewart is off the road as well. So this setup on a long run seems to be difficult to drive. And ladies and gentlemen, these are not your average sim races. This is a step above. These guys know how to drive these cars, Brady, and they would not be making this amount of mistakes at this level without this being a little bit more of a difficult setup to drive or tyre wear being a factor.
Yes, certainly. We'll try and actually get a replay of that Michael Stewart incident because of actually Scott Gamble in the 543 machine actually got into the side of Michael Stewart in through the chase. So Scott Gamble maybe just a little bit of anger, a bit of desperation, and didn't have to do that move, and I think he'll definitely be copying a penalty his way.
No, so it's the other way around. This is Stewart down the inside of Gamble, because remember, Gamble is down on power. Gamble's in hot there. I think Gamble's failed to pull that car up.
Yeah, I certainly agree there. Scott Gamble just a little bit hot. We'll try and get another angle here. Looks like, yeah, like you said, Gamble certainly slow on the straight, still coming past, and maybe Gamble's just, no, I'm having this spot, and I think that is on Scott Gamble, unfortunately.
Wow, that's it. Look, Stewart's definitely turned in early, but I still don't think Gamble was making the corner. So it's one of those ones where I think both drivers have contributed, and, well, that's life. You've both got to try and get through the corner at the end of the day.
Yeah, certainly right, Scott. And unfortunately, for neither of them didn't happen, so we'll have to see what race control come of that. So, unfortunately, Scott Gamble's nice go from bad to worse.
Oh, there's a car off! There's a car off! Stewart Hall in the wall at the elbow. Facing the wrong direction. I'm not 100% sure what's going on from Stewart Hall, but there was a huge battle pack caught up between P27 all the way back to, well, it was 38th at the time, and that's the end result. He looks okay. It's just facing the wrong direction.
Yeah, it looks like he's just got a little bit of rear quarter damage on the right-hand rear there, but nothing too substantial. So maybe he got a little bit of a tag on the outside, or maybe he got the outside wall, I'm not too sure, but looks like he'll be right to go again, but just unfortunately he's lost a lot of ground.
I can tell you, drivers are pinching more and more brakes. Every single time I check in with any car, there is more and more and more brake smoke. And there's an issue for the 666 car as well. He's now down the inside and getting overtaken for Chris Miller, trying to get himself sorted out. Now he's in this crazy battle pack in around the 30th spot, and it is overtaking season as it stands out for this pack. And now they're going to go bumper to bumper all the way up Elton straight. Chris Miller is currently in 30th. He's dropped off a few spots. Dave Kirby will slice, dice, and grab one away down the inside. But have a look at them crawling all over each other. This screams disaster for me here, Brady.
Yeah, certainly I think we're going to... Oh, there's a massive moment ahead for Michael Quain, putting the outside wall there at the cutting. That was a huge moment for Quain. He luckily kept it out of the wall, not too substantially. He'll keep it going, but they'll put David Kirby right on his back bumper once again. And like he said, Scott, I think this is just brewing for another incident. These guys are all over each other. These guys are racing hard every single lap, and there's a lot of mistakes being made tonight.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, your top three manages to stick together. There are basically battle packs the whole way through the field. There's a huge moment coming down through the outside on the way to the dipper. Here comes Kirby. He's right there from Michael Quain, but he's also struggling just to hang on to that car. It is an absolute workhorse that these guys have got to keep underneath them here tonight. And finally, a break as they come off the elbow. I tell you what, once again, can we check in with the Dean Flavel heart monitor? Because that'll give us a little bit of an insight into what's going on for all of these drivers. He's in this battle pack. He's right at the head of this thing. He's had multiple cars have issues. Well, you saw it before. In the safety car period, it was around 90, 91 beats a minute, dipped into the 80s. No, add 30 to that. That thing is working overtime, and that's not even his engine.
Like to try and stay on board with him because he's got a few hungry cars in behind him. Oh, Michael Quain! Massive moment into Murray's corner. Locked the rears up, and that's a bit of a reprieve there for Dean Flavel. And David Kirby will try once again down the inside at Hell Corner. Won't quite get it done. Gets on the sausage curb. Won't get it done, Michael Quain. And look at that heart rate go down for Dean Flavel. He's got a few car links down behind him. It's dropped back down, but now it's picking right back up down the straight.
I was about to say, I think there's a beer or so just settling that heart rate down as it looks at this point in time. But there is the view from the rear bumper here. Cars everywhere. They're all squabbling. They all want it. They all want a piece of the 307 machine. That's Dave Kirby. He is P2 in the championship. But right now, I think it is just whatever you can come away with from the mountain as they all squabble over it. They bicker, they infight. Basically, it's just a big old family. Everyone wants a piece of each other. And it's been a long, hot day in the Australian sun.
I certainly wasn't expecting this much action tonight, Scott. There's a car in the background there. Ate some concrete dust there as Chrisdale looks down the inside, is it? The Frog Leap machine. Yeah, it was Robert Chrisdale. Some more concrete dust flying. This race is absolutely going off. We're only at lap number 18. We've still got another about 32 laps to go.
You know the best part? We're watching all of this on board, ladies and gentlemen, for Robert Chrisdale's 33rd. Just ahead of him, Craig Friend, 32nd. This is in and around the 30s. If you don't think that there's fun to be had up and down the pack, you're laughing. You're absolutely mental. You're off your rocker. Because here comes Robert Chrisdale. He wants a piece of this one. There was an opportunity across the top. He's going to pull it out. Here comes the Frog Leap Juice Racing entry. The 808. Has he got the inside line? Has he got control? He's clear. And Azol says is the next one on track for him. He's going to have a little bit of a blinking connection moment from Cesar. And he will finally settle it down in. Chrisdale comes away with one. And boy, the heart rates, well, I think we'll be back and forth to that monitor just a few more times throughout the night because this is the battle pack to watch.
Yeah, certainly. We say it every week, Scott, that this series keeps producing good racing. Unfortunately, we've had a few incidents on, a few big ones of that. There's a big lock up there for Hail Caesar. But like I said, Scott, going back, these guys are putting on some great racing. And it's all throughout the field. Whether you're first or you're 40th, there's always good racing on track.
And I tell you what, up at the lead at the moment, they have not managed to shake each other whatsoever. Ken Latta leads by half a second back to Anthony Visma, from half a second back to John Latham. So that's not changing up at the front. A few guys settling in just behind them. Greg Pavel's got back to pick 4, and looks like that's where he'll settle back in. But we'll stay on board with the battle pack that you're looking at. Look at those numbers on the right-hand side of your screen. The battle for 28. Love it. Love it.
These guys are certainly putting on a show at the moment. We've seen it in previous weeks that these guys in the mid-pack put on just as good racing as the front, and tonight they are producing once again as we're on board with Chris Miller in the 666 machine. Like we said before, he's following the 307 of Dave Kirby through the S's and through to the Dipper, and these guys are just on the edge every single corner, every single lap. It's absolutely incredible to watch.
Yeah, well, we had it go mental the last 10 laps last week over just outside of the top 10 this time. Look, I'm going to be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Sure, the front end of the race is interesting. You want to know who wins the thing. I don't care about that. This is where I would end up if I was in the supercar. This is the battle pack I want to watch.
Yeah, certainly, and looks like David Kirby is going to have a go at Michael Quain. He will pull out just at the last second through the chase. He might get him here at turn 22. He might just, he sticks around the outside. There's a little bit of contact, but Kirby will stay true. He'll hang on to it, but then there's Chris Miller, there's Halal Caesar. It looks like actually going to the pits is Michael Quain. He's pitting very early, so not sure if he's got a penalty or something because he's not going to make it home at this point. So very interesting from Michael Quain.
For the guys watching along at home, he's very deep A into the pit lane, but B, 20 incident points is where you will pick yourself up a drive-through penalty. After that, ladies and gentlemen, it becomes, I believe it's every 20x, so it stays at 20x. So there you go. You're allowed to have as many incident points as you want. Every 20x, there's going to be a drive down and through pit lane, and I get the feeling that might be what happened right there.
Oh, sorry, trying to interrupt you, Scott. Chris Miller has had a massive moment. He's had a blown motor. He's just come out of turn number 1. If he doesn't make it back around, we might have another safety car. So Chris Miller, I just seen he had a mechanical meatball flag and lots of smoke coming out of the back of the 666 machine. So if he doesn't make it back around, this motor expires the next 6 kilometres. We're going to have another safety car on our hands. So we'll have to try and keep on that for the next lap or so.
That looks like an overheating issue. So that's what he's struggling with, because the way that his engine's degraded, that's not a one-on contact. That will be multiple leading to issues. Now have a look at Latham starting to have a go down and all over the rear bumper of Anthony Bismarck. Bismarck holds P2 at this point in time. And not for much longer if John Latham has anything to say about it. They're starting to just lose a little bit of touch with this squabbling to Ken Latta. Latta's been on form the last few weeks. He's been putting in nice, consistent drives. He's had just a few incidents that probably subtracted from him. But on the night where everyone else, all of the top guys have mistakes, you've got to keep it clean to master the mountain. And down the inside, nice and cleanly, goes John Latham to snip away second place. And, well, he's put the miles up this week.
Yeah, certainly a very impressive move there from Latham and the 24 machine. Got the move done nice and easy on Anthony Visma, who didn't really put up much of a fight there. I think they're still playing the long game because there's still plenty of laps to go. There's about 28 laps to go in this race. We're not even halfway, Scott. This race is absolutely going off, and it's always producing good racing. As we look back to Christian Smart, he's overtaken Scott McCune for P number 7. Both cars have fairly substantial damage there, but still producing some half-decent lap times.
Well, I tell you what, if you take both of those cars and you slap them together, you've got one full complete race car still left over. There's a rear wing required for Christian Smart. Scott McHugh might steal that bonnet land, and, well, that front splitter, neither of them have a functional front splitter at this point in time. Update on where Chris Miller is through the lap, ladies and gentlemen. He is just about to travel in the pit lane, so he will make it back. That engine will not expire. Although, I don't think that car is going to pass its requirements for a roadworthy check at this point in time. Maybe a fast repair will fix that.
Hopefully, if he hasn't used his fast repair from the early instance, he will get back on track and hopefully not lose, go a lap down as we look at Jamie McKnight, is it? Yes, Jamie McKnight and Brennan Nishka battling for 10th position. We see McKnight earlier get some damage with a no bonnet, which probably isn't helping him too much, but Brennan Nishka putting some nice laps together. He's closed right on the back of McKnight. This is for position number 9, so Brennan Nishka, Jamie McKnight, some probably nearly season-best performances from both these guys.
Yep, starting to put it together. Nishka's been there and thereabouts. I've been watching him through different series. He's starting to really put it together and turn up quicker. And here comes another spot to the end from Jason Spriggs, who's actually going to go backwards one spot down Conrod. Well, it turns out that apparently having no rear wing does not aid straight line speed. If your name is Jason Spriggs, as gets passed by the Fishy Motorsports machine.
Yeah, certainly Jason Spriggs, a fantastic run early in the race. Actually, all unfolded for him earlier on with checking up for his teammate Damien Cairns. So Travis Hunt had a little bit of a moat there off Murray's corner. He's currently P16, so 20th, so he's up a couple of spots in the beautiful looking number 32 machine.
Ladies and gents, Travis I've loved this machine from day number 1 of this series and continuing to put the eyes forward. Well, I mean, they don't put them backwards on that car. They're mounted in the headlights. They'll always. He is gritted teeth. He is struggling. He's not looking as calm and relaxed as he did earlier on in the race. That is a man that's starting to push on as best as he possibly can. I want to keep trying to get an update with that battle pack that was in around the 30th at Ty Burnett. That looks to have spread itself out now, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, I can tell we've got a huge battle pack from 14th and 15th. They're fighting out and over it. Then it goes from a little bit back to 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. Tiny gap, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Tiny gap, 24th, 25th, 26th. So this snake goes from about 16th all the way back to 26th. If you're being generous, then...
Massive moment there at the elbow. Sorry, Jeff Thomas there had that little mistake as we go on board with him. And he said there's battle pass absolutely everywhere. And wherever you are, you're going to be racing someone. So it's really good to see. And Taliancic, he'll have looked down the inside of Jeff Thomas and will get it done through the chase. He'll go position number 12 now.
Yes, Jeff Thomas, obviously, a moment on those rear tyres, not looking to fight it. And what a drive it's been. It's not been a standout performance here from the 21 driver tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But he started 16th, he's into 13th, and there's cars on the road just in front of him, and he can just continue to pick off. And that will be good enough, I think, for the 21. Coming in with a one-handed drive from Michael Taliancic, and, well, you can't complain. You know what? Apparently it takes one hand to lift a championship cup, and we'll see if Taliancic can do that at the end of the season.
Yeah, certainly. And remember, he had that incident before with the car that's actually on screen, Christian Smart. So, a bit of a recovery drive at the moment for Taliancic. He was spun out at the exit of turn number 1. So, looks like he's put in some really good lap times down in the 204s that last time by. So, he's certainly picking his way through the field. He's got Matt Vandergrain in his sights as we look at the battle pack for P number 6, Tim Nicol. He started 12th. He's up 6 spots. He's doing a really good job tonight in the 23. But he's got Christian Smart, the very experienced campaigner of the 999 machine, and also Scott McCune. This little battle pack, not much separating these guys. So certainly have to see how this unfolds. The next couple of laps as McCune Pine drops the wheels off at Skyline. Nearly a massive moment there for the 777 machine.
Yeah, I've got an update on cars up and down the field, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's biggest mover looks to be the 067 machine of Jason Fewens, up from 32nd on the grid. Oh, P2 around John Latham, now facing the wrong direction. Well, he started in 5th, he's been returned to 5th, now it's 6th.
I just had a look at the replay. We might try and grab the Logitech G replay. He had a massive moment just like Rick Vell did at Forest Elbow, but he had a full loop, full 360, and he's lost many spots. He's now back behind Smart. He was actually going to try and battle Smart into turn number 22. He won't stay ahead, and that's a massive moment for John Latham, who's in such a good position. He was in contention for a win. He's now down to P7 and way off the race lead, so that's a massive moment in this race.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that he's going to have a lot of pace, and he'll know it. For this last hit, he's going to settle himself down and get himself restarted. So the run down through the dipper, we know that the incident was at the elbow, and Brady's managed to cap it on board, but then we went completely around. Where's it gone? Right on the entry, right there. The rear end's just lazy spun because it's so unloaded. It's already gone. Nothing he can do about that. It was already going to come around. And it was just a matter of trying to hang on to it. And great job from Mark Duggan. It was to come through to pick that one up nice and early and avoid it. Saw a wall of smoke coming his way. Managed to get out of that one. I tell you, Taliancic is trying to get some moves done as well. He's going to try and get past Matt Crane. There's cars on the way out of their pit lane as cars coming up Mountain Straight, which is not going to make things easy as well. Here comes the 32 machine. It's in up. The 747 is going to fight him all the way through. It's Greg Sharp. He's not had a great night so far. He had a pit lane early. Because he got a jump start penalty, so he's trying to keep himself alive. And in this race from Greg Sharp, no, indeed he is in this battle pack. So I thought he was a lap down. Is in this queue apparently. We're getting a word, but it's the one at the tail end of the queue. In which case I think it's Chris Miller. Sorry, Christian Smart. This was one of the two drivers.
There's Michael Quain actually, Scott. Sorry to interrupt.
Quain, there
So
you go.
Michael Quain, he's the one behind Brenton O'Brien. So this trainer 4, the last guy is, Michael Quain. He's currently just a lap down in P37.
That's why we keep him on. You get it correct. Just had a post coming over on YouTube as well, so don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to follow us along both on YouTube and Facebook from Sean McNamara. He said, gutted to be missing this. Ladder's looking absolutely strong. Indeed, Ken Ladder is looking absolutely pointy and racy. He's going to pull the race out to a 3.3 second lead at the end of the last lap. Have a look at this battle pack. This is now Van der Crane trying to hold off a resurging Taliancic. He's up. He's going to try and slide it down the inside here. I've been watching these guys. They've been sliding those rear wheels. Does get down the inside. Van der Crane runs a little bit wide. Job done. Taliancic. He's got a green car and he gets the ticket of approval for driving in my favourite car.
Yeah, certainly a nice move there for Taliancic, just showing his experience, got the move done. Maybe just rate him just a little bit wide. Just maybe, but that's touring car racing at its finest. And fantastic move there from Taliancic. They'll put him into P number 11. So next car inside is Brendan Ishka, but he's a few seconds up the road.
You know, Brady, it's been half the race at this point, right? There's been so much action. We've barely had a moment to breathe to ourselves. So it's a good opportunity. You're watching the Kumho Tyres V8 Supercars veteran, proud primary sponsor, Kumho Tyres. You saw an ad early on in the piece showing just what you can do. If you need tyres for your car, it's Kumho Tyres. But Anthony Visma is going to take centre stage at this point in time. Started off of the pole position, now facing the wrong direction as he runs through the dipper. And that was a P2 in the books, all done and dusted. And that thing is crabbing. He's in trouble on the run down to Forest Elbow. He's in a lot of trouble. He can make it home from this point, Brady, but it's going to take some fuel saving. And here comes the battle pack as well. They'll have to dip, dodge, and dive. And they've managed to get out of that one and back down and in. Christian Smart was the driver trying to dodge things. This is going to be a handful. And here comes the field. There is 20 cars left on the mountain. They're going to have to get by this, and they're going to approach him at a massive amount of speed.
Yeah, Anthony Visma, a huge moment in this race. Once again, a driver in the top half of the field making a huge mistake. That car is not healthy at all, and he's going to try and crawl it back to the pits, try and get a fast repair, but the guys behind, Chris Miller, now coming flying past. He's going to have to be very careful, especially through turn number 20 through the chase. Now here comes his sparring partner, Scott Gamble, from early in the race. But Anthony Visma, we'll try to get a replay once we see him back in the pits. But that was an absolute massive moment into the essence for Anthony Visma. And effectively, his chances for the race win is absolutely over. As we see Scott Gamble actually dive into the pit lane a little bit earlier than what we would have expected.
Yeah, so a bunch of drivers are electing to come for the undercut. This from Anthony Visma is now going to hold up his teammate in behind him, who was looking for a faster run on a pit lane. And won't get that one as we go to the Logitech Gee Whiz moment replay. He runs up the wall, so pretty standard across the top from Anthony Visma, but about here is where he's going to come a little bit unstuck, turns it in nicely, up and on the curbs, too much curb on the left-hand side. Followed by a quick trip to the barriers.
Yeah, unfortunately, a massive moment. That I reckon that secondary contact doing that flick spin, I reckon it's knocked the rear end out of alignment, and that's why he's crabbing. So, massive moment in this race. Anthony Visma is pretty much out of contention. I'm not 100% sure if he actually get back out, but we'll talk about earlier, 23 laps for a full tank of fuel. These guys are going to do now 24 laps to make it home. I know Scott Gamble's not really in the conversation for the race win at the moment, but certainly pitting very early.
Yeah, and look at all the trouble that these guys have had on older tyres thus far. I would be wanting to go as far as possible right now, make it easy for that final sector. They're not making it easy on themselves, so keep your eyes on this battle pack. Latham's had pace. We've seen him up in and surging for the race lead. Now he's going to fight his way back to the podium. He's not all that far off of it, as this battle pack runs from 4th all the way down to 7th. But quick to pit lane is Scott McHugh. He's going to look for the undercut, and we'll see what he can get done. So where's this going to spin him back out? It's going to spin him back out, I think, at the tail end of all that traffic. It's going to be pretty clear running. All the drivers that have already pit are coming out just in front of our race leader. Safety car was to come out now. It's going to be tight, but anyone that pits from the next little pack down on those fresh tyres, if a safety car was coming out, they would get stuck a lap down. So I think you've got to run long. I think you've got to wait for a few of these lead cars to come.
Yeah, certainly I think as we see Jamek Midnight as well in the lane, as well as Jeff Thomas, I think you've got to pretty much run your tank right out. So it's the smallest fill possible. These guys are going to be pushing it extremely. They still got to try. They got to try and get 24 laps out of this tank, and we were saying it's about 23. So I reckon these guys will be in a bit of a fuel save for the rest of the race, pitting this early. So we haven't seen Ladder, we haven't seen Favell Duggan pit yet. So we'll have to watch out for Scott McCune because he was the lead driver to pit so far. So it'll be interesting to see how his progress goes for the remainder of the race.
I'm interested to know what the fee was paid from Scott Gamble off to the pit lane radar man to keep Mark Duggan off the podium last week. And do you think that Mark Duggan's gone digging through that wallet of his down the end of pit lane, hopefully trying to prevent a pit lane speeding fine again? He had to pay. I was so keen for a result from Duggan last week.
Yeah, so was I. Scott, he performed absolutely brutally last week at Rudskogan, and looks like he's in a really good position. Once again, it's like P3 at the moment, and for the misfortune of others through Scott Gamble, not Greg Favell, but Spriggs and Doe, Mark Duggan's putting himself in a really good position for a potential podium tonight. One
of the biggest things I liked out of that drive was the recovery drive of Mark Duggan. He didn't force the issue. He respected the competition that was around him. He raced hard, but space was always given, so there was never in a space where he could cause an issue for another driver, or another driver was going to make contact. Whenever he got the move done, it was clean, concise, he was down the inside, he was in control. So I'm interested to see if the elbows will come out a little bit now that he's back on the podium. Now that he wants to hang on to a little bit of track position. 4.62 machine a little bit down the pack is going to be Dan Hall, who's going to just pick off a lapped car, which was Michael Quain. So my apologies, ladies and gentlemen, there actually was a pass for position. That was Dan Hall getting by Robert Griffiths. So that was intended. I'm wondering whether or not Griffiths is trying to get that extra lap worth of fuel.
Yeah, I certainly think so. Like I said, Scott, I think you've got to run long in this instance. We just seen Tim Nicol, the 23 car. He was position number 5. He just came into the pit lane. So the first of the top 5 running cars has now pitted the 23 machine. So we'll see where he comes out relative to Scott McCune, because they were pretty close together on track when McCune pitted. So that's the effective leaders of the guys that have pitted so far. So we'll have to try and keep an eye when Ken Ladder, Favell and Duggan and co take their final stop.
So ladies and gentlemen, the race time now, the amount of time that these drivers have spent in the car is right on about the hour mark. So it's going to be a tricky little thing to deal with. Minute and 18 seconds is the distance from McCune to the leader. He's already pitted a few laps ago, and he's got the jump through on Tim Nicol. Now I'll try and settle himself in. But that's a long time in a race car now, and we're just past the halfway mark. We're going to get close to 2 hours. It's going to be around an hour and 40, an hour and 15 minutes here. So endurance racing is going to be a factor here tonight. And certainly the concentration levels. We've already seen drivers underestimate the conditions and start to make mistakes. That is going to come in big at the tail end of this race as Chris Dale looking for a way around Vigor.
You certainly see the experienced drivers stepping up tonight. The guys have done many, many miles and many long races in these cars, like Ken Lauder is a perfect example. He's been there or thereabouts all season long, like you mentioned earlier, Scott, but tonight, long distance race, Bathurst, it's all coming together for the 269 machine. You see the experienced heads, the older heads. Well, I should say they're all older heads, no disrespect. It is V8 veterans, but you know what I mean, Scott.
Yeah, I do. The veterans of the car racing, of the styles, of everything. I'm going to go back here. There's something that Peter Vander Crane puts together every week on the Discord, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Punter's Guide to the Series. Ken Ladder. Odds for Ken Ladder to pick up a win here tonight was 16-1. A very clean and fast effort at Rudskogan gave him the second place he deserved the week before. Had to happen sooner or later, might get a win. Wouldn't that be an interesting little statement that Ken Ladder would have gone into tonight with? And Greg Favell will make his way through the pit lane. I'm keen to read up on some Favel lore if I can find the punter's guide once more, because he's had a few strong finishes here as well, but sometimes blows his own engine. 7.5, 7.5 to 1 for the odds. Engine was in bad shape after Road America, blew it off his own accord. Took some time to replace. Dominated quali here last time, had a big win in season 11, and should be ready for a bold showing this week. Showing from Favel was indeed bold here tonight. Probably just a touch too bold, because he's had run-ins with other drivers twice tonight, and both times he's lost time, and that would be the big thing keeping him from the podium so far.
Yes, certainly good fellas. You know he's got the paces. We'll go to Ken Latta. He's in the box. He had to react to Greg Favel, even though he had a 4.5 second lead. Greg Favel, massive moment across the top. He knows he's got to push on this outlet because he'll know Kenny Latta will be in the lane. Kenny Latta's got to cover him off, and this will be certainly interesting to see if Greg Favel can make up any ground on the leader during this pit cycle.
I'm curious to see if Duggan can go any longer as well. Whether or not how long he's going to go. No, Mark Duggan's in the pit lane. We'll keep our eyes on these guys here as well. Nitschke and Talyancic. Nitschke going to go another lap. So Nitschke is going to lead himself a lap in this series. He's going to be the first time that he'll get past that stripe and be the first driver to do so. Will be on the next lap when he comes down pit lane, provided he makes it there on fuel. He will only have 19 laps to do on those tyres. He's been chill. He's been calm. He's been consistent. There's not been a lot of bobbles. He's looked after those tyres. Could this be a strong run from Nitschke? Could we see his first podium of the season?
Certainly wouldn't put out the question. Running that extra lap, we discussed it pre-race, Scott. Going that one extra lap can make such a huge difference. Even in the 300-kilometre race, 500, 1,000, it doesn't matter. Going an extra lap at this pace is absolutely huge in terms of fuel, in terms of tyres, because we know the track's so long, and I think Nitschke's going to be a really good position. As I'm just picking up Kenny Latta, he has come out a fair bit ahead of Greg Favel, so Ken Latta still on the race lead after he's taken his second stop.
Yeah, still about 4.5 seconds back to Favel. Lap time was good from Favel, but it was just a little bit better from Ken Latta on the way to pit lane, and he's got this one under control. He does not want to see himself a safety car. He's seeing John Latham return to the racetrack as well. He's going to go head-to-head here with McCune, and will slot in behind him. Smart's right there as well, so a few drivers now squabbling back over. John Latham's had phenomenal long-run pace. The short-run pace, he's been there and thereabouts. Maybe not the quickest guy out on track, but can turn heads when he needs to. But I think he's going to settle back in. I wouldn't be pushing too hard this lap if I'm Johnny Latham.
I certainly wouldn't either. I reckon he should sit in behind Scott McCune. He just came out of pits, Latham, so a little bit fresher tyres, and McCune was probably one of the first guys to pit. So he's got to be fuel saving too, Scott McCune. So we've got to keep an eye out for the 7 machine, because he was the first guy to pit. So it's going to be interesting how he goes, but looks like the top 3 after those pit stops will be Ken Latta, Greg Favel, and Mark Duggan should be the top 3, as Damien Cairns is still yet to make that second stop as Brendan Nitschke. He's now in the lane, so the race leader in the lane.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen are asking for lap times out in YouTube land. These guys are running about 2:04 mids, so 2:04.5, 2:04.9. Oh! Latham has just made contact with the rear bumper of McCune, and they're both locked in it at Forest Elbow. Talyancic has just gone through. Duggan has gone through. Sorry, that was Jamie McKnight and Talyancic that went through. Now they'll finally get released, and Jeff Thomas has come up on them, and the 77 is absolutely disappointed with that move that's going on. Straight on the microphone to race control. He will be calling it in. It'll be a review, and we're going to get another Logitech G replay.
Only unfortunate that contact. These guys were battling for a top 5. Scott McCune and John Latham, and unfortunately it's all come undone. We'll check out the Logitech replay like you said, Scott. It looks like John Latham, does he get into the back of him? Massive lockup. Massive mistake for John Latham. It was way too hot. Way too hot. I can imagine why Scott McCune is absolutely furious right now, because that move was never, ever going to be on. I think just a simple mistake from John Latham. Just got a bit hot. Yeah, he's locked to the left, inside left, by the looks of it, and barrels into Scott McCune.
Oh, here's the thing. If you look up and you look in your rearview mirror at that point in time from Scott McCune, you just open the steering wheel a little bit. Because what's the difference? The difference is now McCune is down in 11th, whereas he was up, 6th, 7th before, so he's lost 4 or 5 spots. Well, now they're both all the way back down there, whereas he just opens the steering arm, and this is where your race brain gets engaged here, Brady. You open that steering wheel just a little bit, you'll let the car make the mistake down the inside, you'll come away with the spot, but you'll both keep where you are on track, and that's so much more important. John Latham is going to be absolutely spewing with that mistake, and he knows that he's got a penalty coming his way.
Yeah, unfortunately, with John Latham, you got to penalise that, even though...
Oh, it's clear.
Yeah, it's pretty clear in my opinion. Unfortunately, you know, I don't think he really did too much wrong. Just a simple little mistake, and unfortunately, Scott McCune's car was there, so... Unfortunately, John Latham, the 24 car, he'll probably be going through the pit lane very soon.
Righto, up and down the field, the chains have condensed. The snakes have, you know, spread themselves out. They've all gone on pit lane strategies, so it's going to be Latham by 3.5 seconds over Favel. And I tell you what, Mark Duggan's just got down the inside of Damien Cairns, it looks like, as well. So he is going to try and take away P number 3. He may actually have already picked that one up. So Duggan on the assault, on the aggress, and he's got it done at the chase. And here comes the battle on screen as well at this point in time, because here comes Latham. He's got it done on McCune, but remember, penalty ending.
Yeah, certainly Latham gets back by Scott McCune cleanly this time through the chase, and we'll have to see what happens to him. But remember, Mark Duggan, he just passed Damien Cairns for P3. Damien Cairns is out of sequence for the whole field. He last pitted on lap 15. So he's doing it again. He's got about another 2 or 3 laps of field, and he'll have to pit again once again, the 88 of Damien Cairns. Yeah,
so he's doing it again. He put the same strategy last week. Didn't work for him last week. I think this time there was damage, or there was a reason he had to come to pit lane. So I don't think this one was forced on his behalf. It wasn't a selected strategy from Damien Cairns. But look, if you commit to the alternate strategy often enough, sometimes it'll work out in your favour. And he's got track position. If a safety car were to fall right now, he'd be in the exact right spot, Damien Cairns. He'd come to pit lane. Everyone would probably come to pit lane for a fresh set of tyres. So he would be perfectly set up to go racing after a safety car. That's what he's driving around, and that's why he's doing funky things. Sometimes you've got to try it. Sometimes it works out in your favour. Quite often, nah, it doesn't really work out. But he's throwing them up. He's throwing the dice.
Yeah, certainly. And like you said, Scott, I'm pretty sure he did have damage in about lap 14, lap 15, so it was a bit of forced stop, like you said. So unfortunately, he didn't really play those cars. The cars played him. So he's be going a few more laps, I think, and then he'll be in the lane, and then he'll probably be dropping his way back down the field. But not too bad of a race so far for Damien. He has that one little mistake across the top, trying to undone all the good that he done earlier in the race.
How about this one, Scott Gamble? He'd be sitting there and he would just be stewing in that car. There's nothing he can really do. He's got engine damage. He's just slowly going backwards. And that says to me, he burned the fast repair at the first stop. Because remember, he had contact in that first stint, and he made contact yet again in that second stint. Wound up with damage. So once you burn the fast repair, there's no way back into it. Continuing to defend is John Latham from Scott McCune. No, sorry, this is actually Latham going forwards. So I think that was Jeff. Jeff Thomas. He's got the job done on that one. So I thought that was McCune then for half a second. From that angle, the cars look pretty similar, but from that back angle, you know that it's the JWM Brew Coffee sponsors. So that's worked out really well for John Latham. And there it is. So he's picked up the penalty there from John Latham. I can tell you Robert Griffiths has got himself a meatball flag as well, so he'll have to come to pit lane. So
yeah, unfortunately, it hasn't worked out there for John Latham. He just got those moves done, and unfortunately, he'll have to come down the lane and serve that drive-through penalty. So that's going to put him down the order once again. And I was just having a look at lap times. I was curious to see how slow Scott Gamble actually is. Last time by for the leader, Kent Ladder, 2 minute 4.2. Last time by for Scott Gamble, 2 minute 7.4. So 3.2 seconds a lap. We know Scott Gamble's not that slow, but man, that car would be absolutely annoying him right now. Just it's got nothing. It's got nothing.
There's nothing he can do. He's so straight on a straight line. He can carry pace through the corners, but he was up with the car ahead of him on the last lap. Not anymore. Not anymore, ladies and gentlemen. That is Dean Hunt and the JWN entry that's assaulted the rear end of the Evolution Racing team car. And will attempt to try and get that move done, from the benefit is he'll probably look after tyres a lot better, just because he's not running anywhere near as fast anymore. So there's still be threats in the corners from Scott Gamble's perspective, but it's just, you got to feel for him. It's not been his night. And to be honest with you, some of those moves could have been avoided. Some of those issues could have been avoided from Scott Gamble's. It's just a metre worth of racing room was left.
Yeah, you can certainly save that for a lot of the instances. We do see Damien Cairns, the 88 machine, finally come in that final stop, but we've seen a lot of 50-50 decisions from a lot of drivers tonight, Scott. Got moves that certainly probably I wouldn't probably do. Certainly you probably wouldn't either. Just very indecisive moves, we could say.
Well, I can tell you why I wouldn't pull them. First and foremost, you're probably not going to see me stepping into Rookie 8 Super. That's the first issue. But yeah, look, it's tricky, Bathurst, to be honest with you. I had a season finale in a TCR car here back in December, and there was a lot of contact on all things. But the TCRs, you tend to make contact here. And the reason that you make contact is it's so difficult to execute an overtake.
Yes, and I do agree with that, Scott. There, yeah, it's just the nature of this track. It's the nature of the cars, and unfortunately, these things happen. We've seen it most weeks. Some little biff and barge happen, but it's been on another level tonight. It's actually gone off.
I can tell you, Robbie Griffith is not having fun tonight. He's had a meatball flag and he's come down with. Got that repair, but the car's still not running great. He's still dropping miles of time. And I think he may even drop out of the race at the end of this one. Have a look at the camera on board from Jason Spriggs. Look at the intensity on those eyes. But have a look at how much they're weaving around. Hang on. We've got a stuck car. On Mountain Straight. Is that Andrew Hoffman?
It is Andrew Hoffman in the 51. We got a safety car, Scott. We got another safety car soon. Ken Latta, where is he? He's come around the final corner, so he is not pitted. Greg Favell, he isn't pitted, so the top two are staying out. I probably wouldn't pit if you're the front guys at this stage, but if you're in the mid-pack, I'd take the gamble. I'd pit for some extra time.
Well, here's the thing. The safety car was called as first and second, so Latta and Favell were on the front straight. I would pit too. I'd have a crack. There's enough of a field spread, but by the time you get in and get fresh rubber on the thing, you're good to go.
Well, I can confirm Christian Smart hasn't pitted. Tim Nicol and Fifth hasn't pitted. Tally Inchage hasn't. So all these front guys looks like they haven't, but I think some of the guys...
Someone's going to have a crack. We're going to have to keep an eye on the pit lane entry because there is going to be someone that just says, yeah, you know what? Why not?
Yeah, I certainly agree with you, Scott. Someone, I reckon, probably in the 20s on, might just take the risk and try and get some further positions. They'll have some hurt now, but a few fresher tyres and it
well,
looks
there you go.
There you go. It's Scott Gamble.
Well, I mean, he's got the opportunity to try and get some repairs done to that car because he's going to be labouring around it back no matter what. So, particularly... Oh! Why is there a car off at the chase on the way to pit lane? That's
over there.
Curious. And then we have our first taker that's got no damage. It's a 696 car down towards the tail end of Craig Friend. So...
Certainly maps him over there for Chad Lewis. Under safety car, obviously these guys are pushing really hard until they catch the train, but damn, Chad Lewis at the end of the chase. We might try and get a Logitech machine replay thanks to producer Dan Yeaman. See what happened to the 727, Scott?
I'm curious. I'm absolutely curious of what's going on here. So it's probably, like you said, just a guy just pushing a little bit too hard. Just a little bit. And when you're going into the chase at those sorts of speed, you're probably looking up, deciding whether... Oh, okay, that'll do it.
Oh, it's very reminiscent of the was it the Mark Winterbottom Craig Lance incident all those years ago through the sand. That was absolutely huge from Chad Lewis. I wasn't expecting that big of a moment.
Oh my lordy! So this is on view on board with Rick Vigor. Here we go. Yeet! I don't think there's anything you can say. It's just yeet.
Exit stage right for Chad Lewis. I think that could have been very ugly and very unfortunate there for Rick Figure. But luckily for him, Chad Lewis probably had a little bit of presence of mind and try and maybe steer the car away as much as he could on the grass. But more importantly, this safety car has bunched up the top two. They were 3.6 seconds away from each other, Ken Latta and Griffithville. Now they're tying right back up, and this also brings Mark Duggan. He was about 17 seconds off the lead for the safety car. So now all these guys that were pretty much out of the race, out of contention for a win, they're right back in it now. So this is going to be on for sheep stations last 14, 15 laps.
I don't think sheep stations accurately represents how much it's going to be on. Oh, it is going to be all on like you would not believe. Have a look at Nitschke. Have a look at Taliancic. Taliancic right now walks away with P6. He did not want this safety car. He was happy. P6 is enough to continue extending that championship lead. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, where is Dave Kirby? He's gone absolutely missing tonight. He is a long, long way down as Dave Kirby. Did he actually come to the pit lane on that top line? No, he didn't. So he stayed out, not grabbed any tyres. He did fake. He was just behind Scott Gamble. Gamble opted to dip, so he dived. Not into the lane. Back out onto the racetrack. Damien Cairns is got fresh tyres because remember, he came to pit lane a couple laps ago.
Yeah,
fresh tyres.
Yeah, he will have the freshest tyres of the pack. Unfortunately, he's out in P17 as Scott Gamble I just picked up. He just left the pit lane. So a lot of damage to that car, but he's taken as much repairs as he possibly could. He'll be right on the back of the train, which I probably think will be P33 for Scott Gamble. So we'll see if he's got a little bit more straight line speed than before. Maybe he can try and grab a couple of spots, but I'm not too optimistic.
Okay, safety car in at the end of this lap. That car is definitely looking a little bit better than it was before. I think the front splitter's a lot more put back together. Still no bonnet though for Scott Gamble. They'd say there would be a lengthy period required on pit lane to bring that car back to its best states. I'm actually really curious what the best race lap has been so far tonight, because we've had a race start and then we've also had a restart with fresh rubber. So I don't necessarily think our fastest laps have been done, except for maybe under the most recent round of green flag pit stops. So I'm actually a little bit curious about that. I can tell you, early on in the race, Scott Gamble did a 203.777. But that was right at the start of the race. Ken Latta did a 203.593, which I think maybe I'll part of the race.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look there, Scott, and yeah, it looks like Ken Latta lap 2:03.5. So looks like Ken Latta, yeah, does have the fastest lap of the race. But I'm going to go back to Michael Taliancic, P6. He said that he probably didn't want his safety car, but I think he does, because the last racing lap by, he was quicker than Tim Nicol, he was quicker than Christian Smart, he was quicker than Mark Duggan. He matched actually Mark Duggan, so I reckon this could be actually good for Taliancic. He might be able to make up a few more spots. He might even sneak on the podium.
Yeah, but does this kick things off? Like, I mean, he's had a clean race, and that's been the biggest and best part. He's one of the few drivers, ladies and gentlemen, in the field that actually has an active race spotter. Scott Gamble's got a penalty, which I think is for speeding in pit lane.
Yes, he's back in the actual lane, Scott, so he's taking...
He's got a black flag.
He's taking more repairs as... I think he's taking more repairs, but he has also spent in pit lane, which probably does explain the black flag, Scott.
Interesting. So, iRacing issued penalty, that much we do know, but not sure where it's come from. The other driver that does have a spotter is Halil Cesar. So, Taliancic may have a little bit of an advantage in that regard over some of the rest of these guys. Somebody who might be calling chaos going on ahead, but he's so close to the front, it's not going to offer him a huge deal this quarter. I think we've got to go to the heart rate monitor, because if you want to get information out of a driver at this point in time, Dean Flavelle has not had a good night. He's in 32nd. He's at the back of the pack. He's just come down for fresh tyres under that most recent start. Remember, the last safety car, that heart rate was 91. The battle pack was up around 125, 121, 125. He is nervous, is what that looks like to me.
Yeah, certainly, because he's pretty much near the back of the train of the field. So certainly he's going to have everything involved. Anything that happens will happen in front of Dean Flavelle. So I think he's going to see all the action unfold. As looks like the safety car hasn't quite pulled away. I was about to call that it has pulled away, but quite hasn't yet.
It's literally about to go right now. The safety car's going to pull away from the front of the field. I think we're going green this lap. Yeah, so the safety car's going to pull away at this point in time. So, Dan, I'm going to make a request of you. Can we keep that camera up that's telling us the heart rate monitor? But I want to keep race cameras going, if we can. We can do that. Because this is going to be one of the most unique experiences you guys are going to get around the mountain. Racing from the front end of the pack. The emotions that everyone's going to experience down the back. And Ken Ladder's gone early. He does not want to hang around. It is all about to kick off with 13 laps left to go from the mountain. And here comes Ken Ladder.
Ken Ladder.
Go right ahead, Brady.
Sorry, Scott. Ken Ladder just wants to get out of there. He went very early, a lot better than I expected. And Greg Fell's already closed the gap right back up on the exit of turn 1. So I think these guys are going to be battling very, very hard for the race win.
Righto, here comes Ken Ladder. This is the closest Greg Fell's been to him for about 25 laps. Has he potentially gone a touch too early? There's questions being asked of the safety car restart. Keep your eyes on the heart rate monitor of Dean Flavelle in 32nd spot, all the way back at the tail end of the field as that heart rate begins to climb. He's got cars in front of him, cars behind him. He's about to get in the thick of it. So he's actually gotten a poor restart, so the heart rate stays quite down. That's why his car.
Yeah, looks like a bit of a calm head. The 880 machine of Dean Flavelle. He's dropped off just a little bit off the back of Craig Friend.
Hang on.
There's more discussions.
Scott McCune is around in the cutting. Oh, here we go. They're all going to file in. I'm sure we're about to see him on a safety car, and you might see that heart rate just skyrocket. He sees smoke to the right. He sees slow cars ahead. Here comes Dean Flavelle. He's going to cut his way through down into 30th. He's just got by Dan Hall, who's damaged. Scott McCune was around. They're all boxed in as they get to Brock Skyline. See the smoke. See the missing rear bumpers. There's wings afly across the top of the mountain. And when you say things are about to kick off, they really, really kick off.
Yes, certainly. I'm just having a quick look, Scott, and it was McCune. Had a massive moment through Reed Park and try and pick that up. Just all on his own, just lost the rear.
John Latham's had an incident on this restart as well. So I'm going to run through the list, ladies and gentlemen, of drivers who have a black and orange flag with a circle in the middle of it. It's a black flag with an orange circle. That means they have damage that requires them to repair. John Latham, Brenton O'Brien, Travis Hunt, Scott McCune, Dan Hall are the drivers that are required to come to pit lane. So we are going to get ourselves a Logitech G replay. It may take a few moments because Ken Ladder is now about to be a little bit under assault from Greg Flavelle, who's been the closest he's been to the lead of this motor race in a very long period of time. And I think the rubber is on Favelle's side of things as well. He will have to really stick to this rear bumper of the 269 machine. Ken Ladder, he's due for a win. He's got pace on his side tonight. Can he hang on? It's 11, 12 more laps at the finish line, and that is starting to feel like a touch too far.
Yeah, certainly Ken Ladder's had a pretty stress-free race. Other than the start of the race, he had a few good battles with Flavelle and Visma, but other than that, he's been pretty much on his own for the most part, but he ain't alone now. He's got Greg Flavelle all over the rear bumper of the Synergy Sim Racing 269 machine. Ladder scrapes the wall over Skyline. These guys will be going hammer and tong for these last 12 laps. Ken Ladder, he's got his mirrors full. He's got his rear wing full of Greg Flavelle. These guys are going at it. Well, Mark Duggan, he's in the background. He's waiting for it all to kick off as well.
Yeah, this will be on for Duggan's best result of the season now as well. When we finally get to talk to the 864 driver, Christian Smart's there and thereabouts as well. Taliancic has stayed with them, but stayed clean, and that's been his priority. He's in the right spots. Ken Ladder, he's had pace in qualifying. He's had pace for the bulk of the race, and now he's got to engage race brain. He's got to engage defense mode. He is going to look through that rear view mirror for another 11 circuits of Mount Panorama. Has the 269 Ford Mustang got what it takes to sit on top? Because here comes Christian Smart, walking all over the rear bumper of Mark Duggan. Who is going to end up on the podium out of those guys?
These guys, this is also a very interesting battle on screen. We've got Ken Latta and Greg Favell battling for the win, but then you also got Mark Duggan and Christian Smart. They're going at it for P number 3, so there's battle packs absolutely happening everywhere at the moment, Scott, and there's still another 11 laps to go, so there's still a long way around this Mount Panorama circuit.
And I can tell you from 15th back, which is Damien Cairns, ladies and gentlemen, was that most recent driver to pit. Cut his way through a bunch of traffic. David Kirby's only just in front of him, so he's up to 14th. He will start to bank a few points as well in the middle of things. And have a look at that chain that's building in behind them. Cairns missed a shift. Something's happened for Damien Cairns. He has just dropped 4 spots. I'd say he's missed a shift. Or has he got damage? That might be engine damage.
Generally, something's gone off the double A machine. He's dropping a lot of pace. He's dropping a lot of pace. He's got front end damage, but I don't think that's hurting him too much. Maybe it was just a mischief, like you said, Scott.
Well, there's going to be something looked at across the top from the last lap, so we still haven't managed to get back there and have a look at it, but I can tell you as well up in front of things, there is Greg Favell written all over Ken Latta's rear bumper, so that one's about to decide it. There is just about a 2/10 of a second, and there's nothing in it on the way to the elbow, as Greg Favell now has a wiggle. We've seen that before from Favell tonight. He's not comfortable with that machine at the moment. He's wiggling, he's trying to extract the pace out of it, and Latta is going to have to defend for all his money.
Yeah, certainly Ken Latta, he's going to be looking in that rear view mirror. Favell looks like he lifted on the entry of the chase there. He's not going early, so I think Greg Favell's going to buy his time. This time by will have 10 laps to go. I reckon he's going to leave it as late as possible because the draft here is so huge. He doesn't want to leave himself exposed to Latta getting back by him.
The Mustang of Latta seems to have the muster for now. Who's going to have control when we hit the end of lap 49? Who's going to have control when we hit the lap of 48? 2 to go. I think that's where it's all going to start to kick off. I think you've got to play games. I don't think you can leave it to the last lap of the race. The last lap dive at Bathurst tends to bring drivers unstuck. Duggan continues to hang on from Christian Smart. Taliancic has dropped a little way off the back now of Nickel. Starting to close just a little bit, but Nickel's dropped off Christian Smart. So the drivers in the field are starting to separate. That might just open up an opportunity to go to the Logitech G replay.
So we will try and pick up that incident with Scott McCune through Reed Park just a couple of laps ago. It was an absolutely massive moment. We'll see him, he's going through the cutting just fine. He's in behind one of, Jeff Thomas, it is an 85 machine. And watch this for Scott McCune. Massive moment in the fence at Reed Park. And we'll see, bang. It's Scott McCune and John Latham. Once again, unfortunately for John Latham. Even McCune have got together twice. Dan Hall has massive damage. We've seen Brett O'Brien also had massive damage. So those guys involved in the early into lap 4 or 5 been involved once again.
You just see John Latham leading the second prime at that point in time, and this is going to give us a little bit more of an onboard replay from John Latham. This is Brenton O'Brien standing in the 26 car. All he can see is a car just comes back across the road. O'Brien ended up with damage from that one as well, had to come back to the pit lane, and it was just wrong place, wrong time for Latham, but that's the mountain.
Yeah, it certainly is, Scott, and we've discussed all race how all visibility is in these race cars, and unfortunately for John Latham, once again, bit in hard, and Dan Hall, massive damage from a flying Scott McCune, so very unfortunate there for the 462, a few hits after that, so unfortunately a few cars pulled up in that, and we'll try and go back to the lead because Greg Favell still pressuring Ken Latta right in the back, and so is Christian Smart on the back of Mark Duggan. These guys are not letting go one bit. 9 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, running out of time. Tick, tick, tock goes the lap counter clock as we get another one by and a little bit closer to the finish line. It's going to be 300 kilometers when we get to the end of this motor race. An hour and a half, 90 minutes behind the wheel just from race time. There was qualifying before that. Practice laps, they matter. You can't get to the top end of this thing without putting in the hard yards, without putting in the work, without putting in the effort, without knowing the track, the curbs, the bumps, the setups. Every little moment of this motor race counts And we're now nearing its final destination.
Certainly nearing the end of this race. It's been a long night for these drivers. This is a long race for a solo individual to compete in, and these guys are right on the wit's end of their concentration levels. And little wiggle there from Ken Latta across the top through Suleiman Park through McPhillamy. His rear end's just losing just a little bit. He could be wary. He can't make too many mistakes there because Greg Favell will pounce.
Yeah, and pinched a little bit of a break on the run down through the S's. Damien Cam was just on the run on the radio to race control as well about something back. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't think we're going to be able to read there's anything to talk about. The other thing, ladies and gentlemen, is 14 to 34th, all in a line. All in a line. There's nothing separating them. It's absolutely mental up and down the field. And speaking of mental, here comes Greg Favell. He wants to just fill the rear bumper of the 76 car the 76 car wants to fill the rear view mirror of Ken Latta's. Man, I'm starting to lose it. 90 minutes is tough on a commentator too, ladies and gentlemen. But Ken Latta has got to look at that 76 car for 8 more circuits of Mount Panorama. 8 more times by the 6.21 kilometre, 23 turns. All of them historic, all of them matter. And can Latta make them?
Yeah, certainly Ken Latta. He's doing everything right at the moment. He's not making many mistakes at all. He's creating Greg Favell behind us. We look at Halal Cesar. He started 35th, he's up to 19th, and he's now right on the back of Chad Lewis. Actually, Chad Lewis has actually gone by him since the last time by, so Chad Lewis has made up a spot into position number 18. He's had a massive race as well. All these guys, and Jason Fewens runs wide. He's in the grass.
Car backwards at the final corner. I think that might have been Jeff Thomas. Yeah, indeed it was. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Jeff Thomas. The third Joey Williams car. We've gone through all of them before we finally picked up the car that was backwards.
It's John King. It was a 106 John King. Unfortunately, had to spin there. They all look the same, so it's sometimes hard to pick them up, Scott. And unfortunately, he got in the grass just the same. Just unfortunately lost the rear end.
What's happened to our pole sitter? Anthony Bismar's 5 laps down, so something happened to him. He spent 12 minutes in the pits. Is what's happened to Anthony Bismar. So not 100% sure what actually went on there, but he's dropped a whole bunch of laps. So I wonder whether or not the lapped car that we saw Andrew Hoffman, whether or not Bismar was actually involved in that.
I do remember early in the race when Bismar had his accident earlier in the race. He had to take repairs, and unfortunately he was in the pits for a while, and I think that's why he was 5 laps down. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's late at night. It's a Thursday night. It's a school night. Running out of
it is.
Hang on, Dan Hall, Travis Hunt. On. We're getting word that there was a fair bit of stuff to do for Dan Hall over the last couple of laps. There's a car around at the elbow as well. And it is Chad Lewis facing in the wrong direction.
The RT cars aren't having a good time tonight. Between Lewis, Brenton O'Brien, and also Scott Gamble, they've been in the wars tonight, and looks like his teammate Dan Hall slowing down, lets him go. So very curious there of Dan Hall. Let Chad Lewis by. But we'll try and go back to the lead. Because Greg Favell, he had a go at Ken Latta through the chase the last time by. Couldn't quite get it done. He looks very impatient at this moment. He's really looking to make the move with only 7 laps to go. Keep an eye out for these guys through the chase next time by. So I reckon it could be on.
And well, the Mountain manages to make a ton of last-minute race victories. It's going to set it up. It's going to set up another blockbuster here with the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans. We're going to run through the sponsors a little bit earlier on, and then chaos absolutely kicked off. Well, it's a big shout-out to Logitech G. Kumho Tyres, obviously, your primary sponsor. Parramatta Isuzu, I believe, is one of our secondary sponsors, and then Player One Cindy round us out. It's an absolute pleasure to have everyone involved in the Kumho Tyres V8 Veteran Series, because it does not happen without it, and we do not get moves like what we're about to witness from Ladder and Favell, and there is a car around at the cutting as well. We're going to have to keep our eyes going. I can tell you Ken Ladder just went purple from the cutting all the way down through the S's, so there's pace in this car. Here comes Greg Favell. He wants to be the man of the hour. He's got the job done at the chase. Now he's going to try and pull it up. Who's going to control it back at the left-hand kick? Ladder gets the nose back ahead, and it's bravery from Ken Ladder. He'll hang on to it one more time. 6 laps to go this time by.
That was certainly a very impressive move for Ken Ladder to stay so committed through that corner. I thought Favell had him. I honestly did.
There's a tow. There's a request for a tow, and it's Jason Spiggs who's round at the cutting. I think it's Jason Spiggs. He was on the radio. There's a 696 car backwards at the elbow as well from Craig Friend. Dan Hall. And there's now another car in contact with him. The track is just about blocked at the elbow. Surely not. Surely not a late safety car.
Jason Spriggs is actually parked up through Skyline coming into the dipper. He's towed. So I think race control has allowed him, so we don't have a late safety car. So these guys will keep going at it for the final 6 laps. Unfortunately, the track was blocked up there a little bit at the elbow, but Latter, Favell, they're still going at it. These guys have not let each other go since this restart. They've been punching out fantastic laps, mid-204s. They're going great guns. And only 6 laps to go, this time by. And Favell is absolutely giving it everything.
Is parked up in the middle of the lap. There's another car that's parked up, so 27th, 28th on the racetrack parked up at this point in time. I wonder whether John Latham is good to go. It was the 014 of Rick Vigor as well. And Jason Fewens. There's a whole ton of cars that have towed off of that lap and are no longer able to continue in this race. So we're under 6 laps left to run. It is tight. It is tidy. There's another car parked up on the left-hand side at the exit of the Griffins. And it will now tow from Jason Fewens. So we've lost about 5 or 6 cars on that last lap. And I wonder whether or not it's because we've just hit 10:30 on the east coast of Australia. Maybe these guys, the veterans, they've got bedtimes too. And finally, here comes Flavell. In fact, there goes Flavell. Now it's going to be up to Ken Ladder to see if he can stay glued to that rear bumper.
It's certainly a fantastic move there from Greg Favell. He's left his run late. 5 laps to go this time by. I reckon he's made the move at the right time. Now he's going to make Ken Ladder chase him. These guys have been matching lap times since that last restart. There's nothing in it. All there really is the tow down, up Mountain Straight and down Conroe. That's all that makes a difference between these two drivers at the moment. Ken Ladder stay with him through the top of the track, through the mountain. If he can, he might have another chance at him through the chase next time by.
Yeah, well, Ladder's right there. Does he have another stab at him at Griffins? He's closing. He's closing. He shows the nose. He just wants Flavell to know that he's there. He's got to stay as close as he possibly can. Compromises the momentum at the apex. We're now under 5 laps to go in what has been so far a 265-ish kilometre classic from the mountain in the V8 Veteran Series. And it is not over yet. Now it's for the first time tonight. Greg Flavell has the lead of the race. And now we're going to see if Ladder can respond. Can he stay close across the top of the mountain? These drivers, they've driven so far. They've driven so many laps in practice this week. This is where it counts with 5 to go, Brady Baldwin.
Certainly Ken Ladder. He's going to stay with Greg Favell here. He's got to get a good run through the dipper and through the elbow. The elbow is going to make or break. He's dropped off a little bit there from Greg Favell. It's down to 6/10. He needs to be a little bit closer, I think, to get anything done. He's 7/10 now, so I think Favell has actually pulled enough of a gap. He'll keep Ladder at bay for now.
Yeah, and now he's going to defend to the left-hand side of the road from Flavell. Little bit of a pickup of the grass. It closes. He's already knocked 0.2 of a second out of him. Now it's 0.3, so that's what it's worth in a straight line. All the hard work across the top. There was a couple of mistakes from that lap, but he'll have 4 more to go to see if he can stick a little bit closer from Ken Ladder's viewpoint. It's the first time in a long time he's had to follow a car across the top of the mountain, and they just drive different. How good's the drive from Mark Duggan, Christian Smart, Taliancic in behind these guys. Duggan was on track for a phenomenal win last week, sped in the pit lane. It's a cruel master, this racing, that we love. this simulator racing. It punishes you for everything, but none more so than the mountain.
Yeah, we've seen that generally all night long, Scott. One little mistake, and it can really undo your race in a massive, massive way. And credit to Mark Duggan, he bounced back after that. I'm sure it was a very disappointing end to last week's race after having such good pace. He started P8 tonight. He is now P3, but Christian Smart has not left him alone whatsoever. You see the gap there, 0.6 of a second. There's not much in it for the final spot on the podium, as there is for the first and second spot in this race as well. Ken Ladder's closed right back up once again on Greg Favell. He might have another go at the chase if he can perform from Repark here through the Forest Elbow.
Yeah, so it's going to put a lot of pressure on the run across the top this lap. He seems to just be staying a touch closer this time by. He's got to stay within it. Stephen Banks has picked up a penalty. Contact with the left-hand side wall at Brock Skyline for your race leader, Flavel. There is not as much as there was last lap. Now they extend out to 7/10. Both drivers pick up the lap. It's cleaner from Ladder, but it looks like Flavel has got his number across the top of the mountain now. He'll pinch a break. The run off at the elbow. It's back to 6.5 tenths. He's got to get himself in there. He's really got to make sure that he stays in this draft. It's so critical. And I tell you what, the team boss of Taipans over on the YouTube chat, he says this is it. This race is the definition of highs and lows. If you're a Taipan fan, we want to hear it right now because there's only 3 more laps to go on a handful of corners.
Yeah, certainly. It looks like we might have a problem for Jamie McKnight. He was P8 just before he dropped out completely. Jamie McKnight, he might be done. He might have had an internet failure. Unfortunately, Jamie McKnight, P8, looks like he's dropped right out.
And Ladder's now not able to hang on to that rear bumper. So that says to me, if Christian Smart can hang here, if he can stay with Duggan this time by, maybe he's the party pooper. Greg Flavel is going to be Ken Ladder's party pooper. He did not want to see that safety car, did Ladder. He had control of the field. He was cruising. The race was his, but she's a cruel mistress. She's an absolute damsel in distress, this motor racing thing. And now the safety car restart procedures under investigation by race control post-race. So we won't get a result on that until after the drop of the flag.
Yeah, certainly an interesting call there from race control. And I was actually noticing Greg Favell was weaving quite a lot down Mountain Conrad Straight last time, but I'm not sure what the rulings are in this series. If you can only move once or you can move excessive amount of time. So maybe that's something for race control to look at, maybe post-race, but Halal Caesar, massive moment there on the exit of turn number 1. Let it hang all out with only 3 laps to go.
Yeah, carrying just a little bit more speed through the dip. I just noticed from Greg Favell, slightly different lines as those drivers come down through the S's. He's managing to just about stick there. He's not running away. He's not running away as Greg Favell. He cannot break the toe, so he's still in. If Flavel makes a mistake, it's not over, but it's looking less and less likely from Flavel. That toe distance is starting to get extended. He will pull some of it back, but now Ladder is running out of time. He's just running a touch away. Is Greg Flavel helped out by lap traffic on that lap by? It seems that the draft was just holding him up across the top of the hill. He's got supreme speed in the 76 now.
Yeah, certainly seeing Ken Ladder didn't really make up too much ground down Conrad Straight that time by maybe just a 10th, and we've seen a couple laps ago 3 tenths. So unfortunately, Ladder's just dropped off the back just a little bit. He needs to be a little bit better across the top of the mountain, 2 laps to go if he's got any chance. Any chance.
Well, there's a lot of break. That's going to buy him some time. It buys him a huge deal of momentum as they come off the hill corner. Was that the ticket that Ladder needed? Is this going to be able to give him enough? Flavel defended. He moved back across. Now he's given the draft back over to Ladder. Is Ladder going to be able to exert enough pressure to force a mistake from Flavel? We saw him blow an engine at Road America with an untimely downshift. It didn't work in his favour there. It's not been the season to remember from the defending champion. Is Flavel going to hang on to this one? Is Duggan going to hang on to P3? Because him and Smart are still going toe-to-toe. Is Taliancic? Well, Taliancic has come away with P5. He's managed to make his way up past Nickel in a P5. So the points lead will lead here with an extended margin for Taliancic. and there's 1.5 to go, Brady. And here comes Ladder. He's getting closer across the top this time.
It's certainly the closest he has been the last couple of laps. Let it hang all out. The right rear in the grass. Ken Ladder is not leaving.
He's deep. Oh, he's deep down the S's. Pinches brakes. So does Flaville. They're both on the ragged edge. They're pushing for everything. He drops 2/10 back to Ladder. Is that enough of a gap now for Flaville? The second last time in the elbow. Look to carry a lot of speed at the apex. He makes contact with the exit wall. Just trips over it. The momentum will drop. Now he's going to defend it. The draft. Is Ladder going to be able to close enough? 1.5 laps to go. Who has got this one, Brady? You think Favel's stronger, but is it going to be Ladder's night?
Favel's been doing all the right things until this lap. He's made multiple mistakes on this second to last lap. And I think Favel's under a little bit of pressure, and Ken Ladder's doing absolutely everything he can to try and get the job done. We're on the rear spoiler of Mark Duggan. He's hanging on to Christian Smart for P number 3. We have 1 lap to go. It's Favel v Latter for the race win.
6.2 kilometers. We're running out of time. It's final lap. 1 hour and 45 minutes since these guys set off. And here comes Ken Ladder. He's at that rear bumper. Is this the spot? Defense to the inside to Flaville. He's going to go the long way round at Griffin's Bend. The nose is ahead. He's going to get further ahead. Is it Ken Ladder from the outside? He's 3/4 of a curling. He turns it in. They make contact. There's contact at Griffin's Bend. And it's going to be Flaville. But I can see that one being protested. Here comes P3. Duggan's through. Now comes Smart. Side by side. Smart's in the barrier as well. And if you thought it kicked off before now, it comes to the final lap. It's going to be a tainted victory for Flaville. Will he hand it back? It's Duggan in P2 at this point in time. You know, if there's a penalty on the last lap of this race, Mike Duggan, after coming into last round from Rob Scogan, he was the fastest driver early. A pit lane speeding penalty. The 864 could win it here on the mountain.
As always, Ladder, brake locked. He's nearly in the fence, Ken Ladder. He must be blowing.
Christian Smart. Smart's got damage. Smart is going to drop out of 4th. Taliancic is going to pick up P4.
It's all happening on the last lap, Scott Rankin. They're going at it. Ken Ladder, he must be blowing steam out of his ears. I'm sure it wasn't. I don't think Greg Favel meant to get him, but I think there might be a penalty coming his way. Christian Smart has massive damage. He's losing heaps of time. Taliancic will go to P4. What a recovery drive for the 21 machine. And we'll go to Greg.
Nothing they could do. It's a post-race investigation for Favel. He'll win it, but there will be a huge question mark over whether or not he hangs on to it. But it's going to be the 76 car that crosses the line first, and you've got to feel like it might just be Mark Duggan's race. It might just be Mark Duggan who walks away with the race victory. It's been a long time since I've seen drama at the mountain on the last lap. It's a long time since I've seen a race decided in the steward's office, and the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans delivers.
Certainly turned it on once again, Scott. What an absolute barn burner of a race. A little bit of controversy as well, and man, I think Gregville might be in a little bit of trouble there with that move on Ken Ladder at Griffin's Bend, but we'll just have to see. We might not even know by the time this broadcast ends, but I sort of feel for Ken Ladder, he done all the right things those last 2 laps. He put himself in a fantastic position, got the move done up Mountain Straight, and I think that was his corner, and we'll just have to see what race control decide, but man, what a race.
We can't not. We've got to go back and watch that one again as the rest of the field finals on by to finish the race. It wasn't a great night from Jeff Thomas in the 85 machine. He showed flashes of brilliance, but so has just about 99% of the field here tonight. There was pace on offer left. There was pace on offer right. Favel's made contact with Smart. He made contact with Scott Gamble at one point in the race. He's made contact with Ken Ladder. And this is the deciding moment, the run up to Griffin. He got such a huge run off of Hell Corner with 1 lap to go. Pinches him tight. Oh, that angle. does not tell the story. But we've also got to watch this through afterwards for what's happened to Christian Smart. You've got to feel for the driver for the 999 machine. You've got to feel for both of them. This is not an easy call for us, Stuart.
No, it's certainly not. And, man, I don't want to be in the race control box right now.
Well, what's the ruling, Brady? Is it B pillar? Is B pillar the metric? And this is Christian Smart. This is what happened to him. They went to go into the cutting. He just didn't back off enough. He just tried to carry too much speed in there too wide. He thought he was going to go in single file. And it did not happen for Christian Smart. And just enough down eventually he could not hang on to it for P number 4. And Taliancic just proves yet again, have a clean race, give each other that extra meter of space, and you'll walk away with a huge bag of points.
Definitely got to give a shout out to David Kirby as well. We've seen him struggling early on. He qualified P33. We'll see his results in a minute. Greg Favell under investigation, but he does cross the line P1, 3.3 seconds ahead of Mark Duggan. An incredible result for the 864 machine after last week. Kenneth Latta might have had that win if it wasn't for the contact with Favell. There'll be some controversy heading into next week. He'll finish P3. Michael Taliancic P4. Christian Smart was in contention for a podium early. He finished P5. Tim Nicol, Brendan Nishka, a fantastic drive for him. He went long in that middle stint. It rewarded him with a P7 result. Greg Sharp, Matt Vandercrane, and Michael Stewart will round out the top 10.
Oh, I tell you what, we mentioned how difficult it is just to be a commentator on some of these nights. Dave Kirby will round out your P11. A great drive from him to pick up a big bag of points. Ty Byrne misses out on a top 10 2 weeks and running through an epic stunner of a race on his behalf. Stephen Kennedy, Darren Crosby, Halil Cesar comes home in 15th. Dean Fulvell on the heart rate monitor. Somebody stick a heart rate monitor on me next week, just watching along. John King, Scott Gamble home in 18th. Stephen Bank in 19th. And Jeff Thomas in the JWN in 20th.
Then we'll go back to P21. John Latham was in contention early on. A few mistakes and a few misfortunes for him. He'll finish P21. Craig Friend, P22. Brenton O'Brien, the last car on the lead lap, P23. That just showed how crazy this race was. Only 23 cars in the lead lap. Peter Vandercrane, 24th. Chris Miller, P25. Then down to Jason Fewens, the last car, one lap down. And then we go to Dan Hall, Michael Quain, Robert Griffiths, and unfortunately, Jamie McKnight was in a top 10 position all that race, and then he had an internet drama late in the race that seen him finish P30.
Yep, and that does not finish us off from the results standpoint of things. Anthony Visma, your pole sitter, 5 laps down. Jason Spriggs, 6 laps down. Chad Lewis, Rick Vigor, both on 6 lap down. Travis Hunt and Scott McCune at 8. Damien Cairns at -9. Hoffman, 16 down, quit on the same lap as Robert Crysdale. And Rod Hollis in 40th, 26 laps down. There was a 41st car here tonight. It will be that of Stuart Hall, and Matty Parker was the driver who did not take to the grid here this evening. Well, it's going to be decided in the steward's office. The racing on track. Let's focus on what we can talk about, ladies and gentlemen, and what we can confirm for you was that the racing on track was close. It was tight. And I think it captured the essence of sim racing at the mountain. There was probably a multitude of times where a millimeter was taken just a little too far.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you there, 100%, Scott. There was, like we said earlier in the broadcast, a lot of 50-50 things that happened throughout that race, and it's Bathurst. That's what it produces, and it's only produced, and I nearly have no voice left after that. That was absolutely epic. I've had 2 bottles of water just trying to keep up with my voice. Yeah, that was crazy, and 300 kilometers, long race for the guys, and it all unfolded at the end, didn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, that also marks the halfway point of the season now through the books. There is going to be rounds 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 to come. Montreal, Belle Isle, Detroit, Belle Isle, that is, Winton, Coda, and Silverstone. It's been a bang up so far. We've even got interviews yet to come. And I'm spent, man. It's been a long day for me for the office. I did a lot of walking around, a lot of looking at fun little things today in a new area that I hadn't been to as a part of my job. And then I come home and I get to witness the mayhem, the mischief, the magnificence of the Kumho Tyres V8 Veteran Series all kick off. And we're going to kick it off by talking to Greg Favell. Greg, look, it's going to be decided in the stewards' room tonight. It's going to be a late night in terms of race control. But that was tricky. Tripping over a couple tires there tonight. Contact with Gamble. It's just close quarters racing at the mountain. We all sit down, we all look at it, and we go, oh, maybe that's a little bit cheeky, but that's V8 supercars racing at the mountain. Contact is very difficult to avoid around this place.
Look, the issue with Scott, I could not have left any more room on the outside. I was just about on the grass.
Yep.
So if you're going to have the mentality of win it or bin it, that's what's going to happen. If he had just kept it a little bit tighter, he would have got running out of the corner and probably had me by turn 2. So I'll take no responsibility at all for that first incident. And I was just talking to Kenny about that last one, and I mean, I was on the ripple strip. I couldn't have left any more room. So, yeah.
I mean, it comes back to corner rights, mate. It's difficult. Like it's tricky because I always race under the mindset of whilst ever there's an overlap, you leave the room because you both get penalised if the room's not left, right? So, but at the same time, you've got to come back to a rule book. And you've got to all race under... Look, anyone can leave the door open and leave that room the right way through the corner. But that may not be what the rule book asks, and we've got to get back to the rule book. What was your take from the rule book?
Yeah, well...
on that second incident? Like,
you got to leave a car width room, right?
Oh, great.
I couldn't leave anymore. I had the inside line. To me, you've got the line. Like, we were having a nice battle up to then. It was great. So it's a bit disappointing to end like that, but yeah. Well, it is what it is. We'll see what they say, but I think I couldn't have left any more room, and yeah, don't know what else we can do.
The overlap. We went back and we had a look at the overlap. He was so close to clearing at that point in time. Does that ever enter your mind as a driver? I think I've cleared him. I'm just going to turn into the corner. Would you have left the space there because it gives you the inside of the cutting going up into the next left-hand sector?
I always try and leave if I'm unsure if I've cleared him. I'll always leave that bit extra room. I prefer to, fight again a little bit later than turn in on someone, but that's just how I race. If I'm unsure, I would have taken that outside line and I would have just stayed out a bit wider and, yielded the position or hopefully got it. But yeah, it's unlucky for Ken. Like, I didn't want it to end like that. We're having a great battle. After that last safety car, I thought I'll just go over him. We'll try and get a bit of a gap between the 3rd and 4th place if we can, and then we can battle it out at the end, which we were doing. So yeah, it was an unfortunate way to finish, but yeah, I don't agree if I've done anything wrong, but we'll wait and see.
Righto, so that's all that there is in terms of to that. We'll turn on to other markers. It was up, down, left, right, and centre for you. It was moments early on in the race. We saw obviously the moment you had it, the elbow. It looked like that was not the easiest car to manhandle around the mountain tonight, but it was the same for everyone. There was so many drivers making errors throughout the course of the race.
Yeah, I think it was the last season's setup, but with just extra fuel. So it was a bit of a handful to drive, but I need a bit more race fitness, so to speak. I haven't done many races since last year, so a few little errors crept in. I got rid of them and I would have been right.
In terms of things, we now turn to the next couple of rounds, and we're obviously starting to head on a little bit more of an American leg. There is some street courses that are making their way through. I mean, we're heading to Montreal next time out. That's a phenomenal track for V8 supercars to race around, and there's some overtaking opportunities, but it's going to take a lot of trust and a lot of understanding who's got rights at what corner and who needs to back out at which stages. And I think that probably sets the tone for round number 6.
Yeah, we'll hopefully learn a bit from this one and move on to the next one. But I'm out of the championship for this season, so I'm just here to have some fun. But I always like to try and keep it clean, so I was a bit disappointed about that last incident, but like I said, I was on the ripple strip. There wasn't much more I could do. So, yeah, disappointing, but great battle.
I'll be honest with you, I still haven't seen an angle whereby we can conclusively say exactly who was at fault on that one, and I think that's going to keep the stewards active for a little while in terms of things. So we'll put that one down, mate. But as usual, the race was entertaining from our point of view, so we can only thank you for that, mate. Who makes it possible for Type N Esports?
It's been a while. 1 second, sorry. All right, Blacktown Mazda, Blacktown City, HWM Havau, Too Easy Finance, Simrigs, Sideways Photography, GMK Logistics, and all the boys at Taipan and yeah, thanks to Race Control yourselves for the broadcast, and all the boys behind the scenes at the V8 Vets.
All right, mate. Thanks again. As usual, I've blown a head gasket this week. I'm going to have no voice left tomorrow. So I'm going to blame you for that when it happens.
The wife come running in, she's going, they're getting excited.
Mate, I have only
Great.
one motor that's excited, so.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent.
Thanks
All right,
very much,
thanks,
Greg.
guys.
Have a
Thanks.
great night, mate.
You too. Bye.
Well, we're going to talk to him tonight from the second step of the podium. It's the driver of the 864 Mark, Duggan. And Mark, I wanted to talk to you last week, man. I felt for you, but you created one of the best battles last week, and that did not stop you from getting out there, having fun, driving hard, driving fast, and going yet again this week.
Yeah, I wanted to have a chat too, but anyway, that's done and dusted. I was really happy with the way I drove last week. You know, like I really had a good feel for that track, but made a mistake tonight. Didn't make any mistakes and profited off other people. So yeah, pretty happy. At Bathurst, you know, love racing around here, but I've never had really good pace. I've been pretty solid, but I wouldn't say great pace. But yeah, I had a good race tonight. Christian Smart put a hell of a lot of pressure on me in that last stint. So yeah, I was just, you know, sweating with Christian on my tail, and yeah, like kind of Bradbeed me way into second place.
Scott Gamble said the same thing about last week.
Yeah.
In terms of things, mate, obviously the season is a little bit of a slow start from you coming out of the gates, but we turn our way towards the middle of the season. The pace is starting to come up. Is there something that you've changed? Are you just spending more time back in the car again? Are you getting a little bit more comfortable? Have the tracks maybe suited you towards the middle of the season?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, trying to think. Didn't have a good. Oh, that's right. I disconnected getting onto the grid at Road America, so that was a bummer. But other than that, I've had a reasonable season. Last week I had good pace. The end of last season, I had a win in the last race, so I feel like my form's been pretty solid. Like I say, Bathurst is you know, I love racing here, but I'm certainly not. Haven't got outstanding pace. I got solid pace, but tonight I didn't make any mistakes. I didn't get any incident points, so little bonus point there. And yeah, just really enjoyed the racing. Had a blast last week. It was a hell of a great fun track to race. Bathurst is just like, you know, pressure. So you know, but I had a ball tonight as well. Really good racing with Christian. He probably could have had a lunge here or there, but you know, he drove a great race, and yeah, I'm just super happy to end up in second. Greg and Kenneth look like they're having a hell of a battle. I'm not sure what happened. I haven't seen the replay, but bad luck for Ken. Like I think he pretty much led the whole race, I think. So yeah, a bit of a shame that he didn't end up with the win, but still, you know, goes to show you what a great driver he is and how fast he is. And congratulations to Greg as well.
Mate, something that I do want to put to you is the mindset that I've seen from you in the way that you go about your racing is you leave an extra meter of space just about at every single corner. Is there something in that perhaps is worthwhile taking note of up and down the field? We've seen a little bit of RTB, and we're not talking much. When we review a lot of these incidents up and down the field, when we look at it from a broadcasting perspective, we're also not looking at it from a race controlling perspective. We're looking at it with the mindset of, oh, this may result in a penalty. This is probably going to go in this direction. But is there something in that? Because I'm not seeing you involved in these accidents. When you go for a move, it's clean, it's decisive. But if you've got the move done, you're leaving an extra yard worth of space to say, hey, you've still got to make the corner as well. Is there something in that?
Well, yeah, probably. You know, getting close to 60 and like Mr. Magoo. I don't know, I think my attitude towards racing's changed a bit in the last couple of seasons. You know, I'm not that desperate racer that, you know, is willing to throw everything on the line and throw it away for myself and somebody else. I've just been a little bit more patient. I do try and give myself a little bit more space, just because I probably don't have the reaction times I used to have when I was a little bit younger. So, you know, like, yeah, I just try and I just try and race with my head a little bit more these days. So other than pit lane entries, I'm I'm yeah, probably a little bit overcautious at times. I like that last stint when Christian was on my tail. I mean, I was, going as hard as I could, and like I was certainly not comfortable with the braking in the car with this tonight. It was still a great set, and Jamie always gives us great setups, but I just struggled with the brakes all week. And in race mode, when you're under pressure, like it's easy to kind of put a little bit more pressure on the brake or not enough, and run wide or run too deep. And so I just try and like I say, the last couple of seasons I've just trying to manage my racing a little bit, use my head, knowing that like there's always potential, like tonight, for other people to make mistakes, and if you don't make one, then as Dickie Johnson used to say, to finish first you got to finish.
Mate, congratulations here on the P2 tonight. The form is coming on strong, and I'm enjoying watching you race, mate. Congratulations, and who makes it possible for Nova Sim Sports?
Yeah, thank you. Big thanks to Track Racer, my teammates at Nova. Shout out to Ross at RSW Graphics for giving us a great livery on the car. To all the boys in the Vets League, it's a sensational league. It's lots of fun, lots of camaraderie, good clean racing most of the time. Good bunch of guys. So shout out to you guys, and Luke and Cameron in the background doing all the management for the league.
Yeah, big shout out to everyone who makes it possible over here at the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans. It is not possible without them, so it's always a good point. Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely, and just a quick shout out to you guys. The broadcast looks sensational, so really happy to have you guys on board doing the broadcast for us.
Thanks very much, Mark, and we'll see you again next week, mate. Maybe we'll make it 2 from 2.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you.
And finally, we're going to round out our podium celebrations here tonight with, I think Mark Duggan said it best, the man who just about led the entire race. Ken, it's a whirlwind of emotions, mate, but we already heard that you'd actually had a little bit of a chat with Greg. Look, it's the last lap. It's the last minute overtake. You got to put it all on the line, and maybe turn down a little bit too early, but there's a whole bunch of drivers up and down the field that have made that mistake tonight too.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a tricky one there because you've got 49 laps odd of cars travelling around the track, and if you're slightly wide there, you end up in the weeds, basically, so, and the dirty stuff, and you're straight in the wall. That's what I was worried about, I suppose, when I made the turn,
So what's your view on it? Do you think you probably turned in a fraction too early? Do you think, look, to be fair to you, Greg only had a little bit of a bumper worth of overlap at the point of turn-in, so it's just about considered your corner, but it makes it difficult when you've never actually cleared him at any stage as well. Does that change corner rights in your view? Just give us a whole breakdown from your perspective, mate.
I don't know, it's sort of very difficult to say because obviously I'm coming from behind. I got off the first corner way better than he did, and of course he's protected the inside, which I had no choice but to go to the outside to have a chance. And I went for it. I broke probably even a little bit later than I broke there, and I guess I was hoping to sort of clear him as well, and obviously not. So I'm certainly not saying it's his fault. Obviously I could have given him maybe slightly more room, but it's when you're pushing that hard, it's difficult to try and get things exact, I suppose, in that moment, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, that's racing. That's what we come along for. We come along for the drama, the high moments, the low moments, and look, it's been consistent results from you the last couple of weeks. I think the points standings from that side of things are starting to reflect that. It's another big bag of points here tonight, and you'll at least take that away. But man, there's a win's coming your way. Surely it's just around the corner for Ken.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, like, this has probably been the closest I've been to one, and there was definitely a real chance there tonight. If we didn't have that safety car period at the end there, I think I would have been able to manage the gap to him, and it felt like I was. But, it's all if buts and maybes, isn't it? So all we can do is just keep trying each round, and plus, this week as well, we've been so busy with the other commitments. You know, I probably didn't get the practice I wanted here, but you can't take anything away from Greg. He was super quick. He made a mistake in the beginning stint. I was struggling to get onto the the Conrod straight with the brakes, but yeah.
That's
Always
just
bites ya.
racing. It's
That's
racing
it.
sometimes.
It
It's racing at the mountain. I mean, it's car position. We've seen, I think, 3 separate incidents at Griffin Bend tonight that were nearly identical in terms of the overlap perspective. So it's not one that I'm going to sit down and say, hey, you're isolated with this sort of incident. Yeah, it didn't pull up a little bit, all that well, but I think it made great racing. I think the racing up and down the field, the battling was phenomenal. You could see him coming lap after lap after lap in those closing phases. You knew it was going to come down to a make or break moment in those last couple of laps. It went wrong. That's racing. Sign up. See you again next week.
That's it. That's all you can do.
Mate, the season now, we turn our eyes next week's Montreal. We're starting to get into the street circuits layouts of this. We've got Detroit Belle coming our way as well. And they've got a little bit of an alternative style. So the tracks are sort of two-toned from here to the end of the season. We've got Winton, you've got Coda. Nice flowing tracks. Not quite so open at Winter as it is at Coda, but long corners. And then you've got a lot of street circuits. Those sharp corners, carrying speed over the curbs, carrying speed over the bumps, which tends to suit Ken Latta better.
Yeah, well, definitely when you come to those sort of tracks, you really need to put the time in to get it right. And, what you can do is just do your best and hopefully you can qualify well, because these tighter tracks, they're not as easy to pass on. So track position is always key, isn't it? And no mistakes.
Well, mate, congratulations here on at least 3rd place finish. It's coming. I know it's coming. I can sense it in the water. Something's coming Ken Latta's way, mate. So who makes it possible for you?
Well, for you guys for putting on a really good broadcast, race control. We wouldn't be able to run this series without them. The boys at SSR, and of course our sponsors, Wave Runner Performance Centre, Smith & Son of Innovation, DR Epoxy, DGD Customs, DM Some Photography, Aussie Mechanical Repairs, JK Science, Aftershock PC, West End Mazda, and Twizy Finance. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the entire podium production here tonight. It was a race filled with moments from the start to the end, Brady Baldwin. You had to look everywhere at all times. And that was just another one of the most entertaining races I've seen in a very long time. And it's week after week after week in the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans.
We say it every week, Scott. The series just continues to produce fantastic racing. And tonight, once again, a little bit drama-packed, a little bit incident-packed, but my God, there was action everywhere you looked. Like you said, up the front, ran the top 10, ran the top 20, ran the top 30. There was just action absolutely everywhere. And I absolutely can't wait for Montreal next week, because that track produces some fantastic racing in these V8 supercars. So I think we're in for another barn burner next week.
Well, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve will make the trip to Canada. One time here, we saw a driver in the Formula 1, 6 trips through the pit lane, I believe it was, for Jenson Button on his route to victory. Rain affected that race in Formula 1. Well, the Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans have its own drama-filled moments. Safety car percentages, I'm going to say somewhere in the realm of 150, 160. Nah, let's go 300% next week from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. That'll all kick off from 8:40 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Don't forget all of your other action coming to you from the SimSpeed broadcast world. A big shout out yet again to the sponsors that make it possible. I think they're getting their money's worth this season. Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans, the naming rights sponsor, Logitech G, because oh gee, there were some moments there tonight on the replay camera. Parramatta Isuzu Ute. For all your trucking needs, get into Parramatta Isuzu Ute and Player One Sim Gear. If you want to get started in simulator racing, you need to be a Player One Sim Gear driver. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of another V8 Veterans Kumho Tyres extravaganza. What a night it's been. This has been your Bathurst round 5 of the championship. Round 6 next week, and the championship heads for home. We'll see you again next week, ladies and gents.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.